Hello and welcome to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Ben Hanson, and I'm joined as always by co-host Mr. Timothy Turi.
Hello, it's another week of the Game Informer Show podcast.
Here we go. And then we have Jeff Marchiafava for the first time.
I don't like being between these two weirdos.
Well, welcome to hell. And we also have Jeff Cork.
You'll get used to it. Okay.
I was out last week. Tim, you did a marvelous job hosting.
How do you know that? You would have had to have listened to it.
I listened to the full thing. I listened and was very confused about that Godzilla segment. I didn't understand the dissection of the controls or whatever the hell was going on in that game.
Yeah, it's a confusing beast.
Yeah. Also,
Godzilla is.
It was a satisfying thing when I went on the YouTube version and I just jumped to a random spot in the video and it was just you guys making fun of me. So that's always nice that just a random pinpoint.
What were they saying?
They're making fun of me for being so hot on Rocket League so early. And Reiner's exact quote was like, "Oh, gnarly Hanson's just promoting some crap game called Pizza Paparazzi that you have to go play." It's like, I don't think I recommend too many crap games. We've had this argument a million times.
Did you just make that up off the top of his head, or is there a game you like called Pizza Paparazzi?
There isn't.
There was a paparazzi
There was a
game, though.
paparazzi game we played a test chamber
Yeah.
of, but I thought it was, oh, that's
Wouldn't
a weird
Pepperoni
little thing.
Paparazzi be the better name?
It really would.
Yeah,
But no, excellent work.
Paparazzi.
I think you guys handled the Iwata thing very correctly.
Oh, okay. Well,
good
yeah.
job.
Honestly, that was it was an interesting podcast. I think we had a good conversation about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Are we done
missed you,
reviewing
though.
last week's podcast? Can
We missed you, Ben. It's good to have you back. We haven't
Thank you.
done one without you yet. And,
Yeah.
And it's a weird, strange deal.
Right.
What's going on this week, though?
Well, I'm going to talk about, like 2 weeks from now, I'll be able to talk about where I was last week. And I'm kind of excited to get to that point because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. This week, have a hell of a show. We are going to talk about some hot games. Going to talk about Tembo,
All those hot releases that have been
Planetside 2.
out. Yeah.
Tenbo and Planetside 2, there's hot releases.
Hot. Get it what's hot.
Look out.
But then we're doing some emails. And then the final section is going to be an interview with Seth Killian, who's a name you might be familiar with. He was the community manager on Street Fighter 4 and really saw that game from the beginning of production.
Like his role evolved into special advisor because he at a certain point is helping explain why 2D hitboxes or collision boxes are better than 3D ones for even though they have 3D character models, and he also helped with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 while he was at Capcom and then he went to Sony and now he's working on his own fighting game.
Yeah, it's interesting. We ran into him on the Order cover story trip. He was actually, I think he was an associate producer on the Order during that time. But now, he left and he's making his own free-to-play fighting game on the PC. And so we talked to him all about that. And we touched on it a little bit in the interview, but I think it's interesting to have this hardcore fan that then is like, all right, now I'm going to make my own game that genre.
Can you hear the distinct sound of Rising Thunder?
It's called Rising Thunder.
It is.
So Tim, it's like imagine like you quit Game Informer to just make a Castlevania
Oh,
game.
I have an announcement to make. I am not doing that because
Okay.
Bloodstained is already being made. So.
That's right. But Jeff Cork, you actually know a lot about Rising Thunder, that fighting game from Seth as well.
Sure.
You interviewed him for the magazine or just for online?
The magazine.
Okay, cool. And then you actually played a fair amount of it too, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, it's pretty fun. I'm not very good at it compared to the people who are making the game.
What do you think about the robot aesthetic? Instead of having like the typical martial arts characters in a fighting game, they go for pure robots.
I think that there's a lot of stuff that, Seth is very clear that is not in the game yet. For example, the robots are actually vehicles that are being piloted. So
okay.
that's an
They're
aspect, like they're going to have like portraits and dialogue of the pilots and everything. For example, is it Vlad, who's kind of like the Russian robot? He's actually, his driver is a dog.
Is it going to be like Metal Warriors on the Super Nintendo where if you beat them up enough, then just a little human gets out and then you have to fight them?
And he's naked and you step on him.
That's really
Metal
satisfying.
Warriors is
I
really
don't
cool. Yeah, it sounds cool. And we talk more with Seth about this, about just how like it looks pretty cool for where it's at, but there's a lot of detail that's going to come in still. I don't know. It seems like it's maybe the gist is like, Pacific Rim fighting game kind of thing going on. Obviously not just big lumbering robots, but I played a little bit with Cork and it's cool. Yeah, you should stay tuned for that interview with Seth, because if you like fighting games or like the idea of fighting games, but are just have trouble with some of the special inputs that they require, they're simplifying that down to a point that allows you to just kind of dive into the strategy without having to worry about like the actual technical input.
Right.
So.
And also I think it's a fun interview, even if you're super into fighting games. Like he gives like some beginner's tips for like all fighting games. Like we talked to him about like what he thinks is like the most underrated fighting game of all time. So there's fun stuff in there. So stay tuned for that.
Also, I think Ben and I are going to try to start getting into some more Street Fighter and train on our street fighting skills.
Well, Street Fighter 5
beta or,
the beta or
the
alpha.
the preview, whatever is going on. They're trying to do some server tests.
Yeah, we'll talk about that probably next week.
We should do that, but I'm curious what people think. Who is going to be the better Street Fighter at the end of the day?
I have a feeling it's going to be Tim. I feel like we already learned this lesson from Street Fighter 2 matches.
I don't know.
But
Sell yourself short, Hanson.
I'm selling myself so short. We should talk about new games.
Oh gosh.
Jeff Cork, your desk is right next to mine. You've been playing the
is.
hell out of Tembo the Badass Elephant.
It's true.
You beat it just today, actually.
It's true.
So what do you think about this game?
Well, I'm still writing the review, so I
Okay.
haven't completely formulated all of my thoughts yet.
Sure.
Into a number.
Into a number, so I got nothing there for you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Skip ahead to Seth Killian. He has very interesting things to say about Rising Thunder. No, it is a fun old school platformer. It is, you are an elephant, and you smash into stuff. And what more do you want from me?
It looked really tough.
It gets pretty tough.
Okay, the final boss in particular, I saw you screaming at for most of this morning.
Yeah, you have to be a very patient person. And maybe near the end of my review run, I was losing patience.
So
Yeah.
this is by Game Freak.
It's true.
Which is bizarre. It's the Pokemon company that everybody forgets. It's not the Pokemon company.
No.
But it's the Pokemon creators that everybody forgets are actually an independent company. So this game's out on PC and Xbox One and PS4.
Very strange to, we covered a little of this on the test chamber we did for the game if you want to see it in action, but just bizarre to be seeing a Game Freak logo while holding a PlayStation 4 controller and just sort of like, wow. Very, very strange, but it plays really well. Like I from what I played of that, it felt like the controls are really tight, and it is tough. I mean, even in those early levels, you can tell like the hints of what they're asking you to do, and just like nailing like jumping up as this elephant, doing like a little flutter thing, and then trying to do this angled like dive pound into the ground. But it's like one thing I liked about the game. I'm curious, Jeff, if this maintained is it felt like they're setting you up almost in that sort of Joe Danger kind of vibe where it's like it's or even Super Meat Boy where you're just like at max speed. It's built just to like run through levels really fast if you can kind of get into a flow. And did you find that, or did you find yourself stopping and like timing out things? Or
That's the weird thing about it, is because it does both.
okay,
And it takes some adjustment. At least it would take me a while to figure out what they were expecting of me at any moment. You know what I mean? Like there are levels where you're just like balls to the wall, running, smashing into stuff, and that's super fun because I think that the game is at its best when it's like that. And then there are other times where it's like you go into a danger room kind of thing, and there's like platforms, and there's guys throwing grenades, and there's a tank, and you just have to sit there and jump and wait for everything to kind of find like where the pattern is, where you can jump up and do this like a little trunk smash, and then wait for the pattern to kind of emerge for the next step. So when it gets a little more methodical, I don't think it's as fun as it is when it is like the initial promise that you kind of see, where it's like, oh, this is almost like I've seen some comparisons to Sonic. People have made.
let's go bring that up.
And I think that it reminds me of Sonic in the same way that like I want Sonic to be fast, but when he's not fast, he's not that great.
There's that thing with Sonic games, and this was a downfall of even the early games where you'd just blast through like whatever hill zone was the first level, and you'd just be going through loop-de-loops and stuff and just rocking it away, and then you'd get into something like Marble Zone, which is like if you just try to sprint through the first third of that, you're just going to lose all your rings and die immediately. And those games were never amazing at sort of telling you like, now this is the slow methodical part. You got to be careful about that. And if you don't make that distinction clear, it can be really jarring.
Yes.
And that's some of the
Something
things.
similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I had like a similar experience. And there's it's interesting too, because you're scored on two things. There's like two kinds of collectibles, basically. One of them is there's 10 people that are kind of hidden throughout every level. Some of them obviously hidden more well than others. Some of them you have to do some serious exploration. For the most part, you can track them all down. And as you collect them, they get on your back. And that's cute. And they like lift their arms up like they're riding a roller coaster.
You said that it ruined your impression of this game by calling it the Magic School Bus game. Because I just looked and saw this multiracial children riding on the back of an elephant. It's like, it just looks like the cast of Magic School Bus, actually.
And the way that it, like the visuals, it looks like Magic School Bus too. It's kind of like sketchy and very colorful.
I get sort of a Cartoon Network vibe, like regular show kind of thing going on, like a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhat similar to that. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the idea of Game Freak getting back to platforming.
Yeah.
I mean, they made Harmonite recently, which is like the rhythm game, which is really cool, like a weird little experimental side project from them. But then go back to Kyle's favorite game, Drill Dozer, that they made. And then even going back further, I don't know if, did you ever play Smart Ball on Super Nintendo?
No.
It's another platformer that they made where the music's pretty good. But I love the idea that even though they're on this annual grind of Pokemon, that they still are carving out time within the studio to take on these odd projects. It's like, imagine like if the Madden team every year also squeezed out a couple of little weird, quirky indie games on the side, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive they're able to schedule all that over there.
Well, the other thing I was curious about is, Cork, you weren't like super fond of like Shovel Knight either, were you? Like that wasn't totally your thing, was it?
I liked what I played of it.
You liked what you played of it? Okay. I was trying to like gauge your overall interest on like sort of like old school, and it's not super old school, but like, you know, like you played a lot of like tough as nails platformers, you know, as you grew up alongside the industry.
Yeah.
And, you know, how does this stack up to, you know, it's some of those memories and some of the kind of old school games that it's trying to harken back to?
For the most part, it is very much in line with those games. It's not like a Mario style game where you're picking up like power-ups and getting new abilities. It's kind of like what you have at the beginning is what you have at the end. So it's that style of game.
Okay.
There are a few times where it does a few new things, but for the most part, you're basically what you see in that tutorial mission is what you'll be doing throughout that entire game.
All the level design that changes it up, and enemies and stuff that's the way that it shakes up the variety.
And it doesn't do a whole lot of that even.
Yeah.
So
You know, and I saw you banging your head against the last boss for a while, which admittedly did look pretty tough. How are the rest of the bosses throughout the game?
the first one, I need to play it again just to see if it is as dumb as I think it is.
Okay.
Where it was just a matter of mashing on the ram button and you just
Okay.
slowly push it off the edge of a cliff.
Oh, okay.
And it has all these like guys on the back and it's shooting fire and stuff. So it looks like it's far more imposing than it ended up being
Okay.
for me. Like I said, I got to play it again to make sure that I didn't just stumble onto some.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty stark contrast between the first boss and the last boss.
Yeah.
then.
And then there's only the I guess there's 4 bosses. Yeah. The other ones are all right too. I mean, there's nothing aside from that last one. He was super annoying.
So it's PC,
Yeah.
PS4, Xbox One. How much are they asking for it?
I'm not sure. The PC version, I tried to check out on Tuesday, and it like was pulled from the store after it was launched because I guess it was completely broken.
That's too
but
bad.
by Wednesday, it looks like they got it up and running, and it's getting some positive reviews over there. So
I could go for a really tough platformer, so I might give it a shot.
yeah, I'm really curious about it.
It's definitely a different speed than Witcher 3. So
Yeah, that's definitely true. You know what else is completely different from Tembo, the badass elephant, is Jeffem, the badass first-person shooter player over there. So you've been playing Planetside 2
we'll go with
on
that,
PS4.
Sure.
You can.
Yes.
You're loving that intro.
Yep.
You can tell.
That's great.
So this game came out a while ago on PC. I know
Yeah, like
Andy
2 years,
McNamara
I think.
was super into it, which I didn't see coming. But the whole pitch for this game is that it's basically Mag 2. Is that correct?
Better than Meg.
Okay.
Yes.
But it's like giant battles, right?
It is. Yeah. It's a giant MMO shooter that is also free to play, but doesn't, totally suck at doing that.
Well, what are they selling then?
They
buying?
they sell.
So sorry.
You can get like a subscription that boosts how much your XP raises, and then pretty much all the weapons and everything you can buy with the battle cash. But it's also everything can be bought with the in-game currency, with the exception of like cosmetic only, like hats and crap like that. So
it's only on PS4 now, right? It's not on Xbox One,
not
even
yet.
though the studio went. Remember, they got
yeah,
detached
it was
from
Sony Online Entertainment, and then they went to Daybreak. And as soon as they did that, they were like, "Hey, we could do this on Xbox now." So I'm sure it's coming at some point, but
Right.
they haven't announced anything.
But
yet.
worth checking out as a free-to-play shooter.
Yeah, I liked it the more that I played.
How many players do you think roughly?
It doesn't really matter at that point. They set a world record for like 1,000 people in one battle, and I don't know how they, determine what a single battle is. But basically, you join a server, you pick your server, and you create your character, and then there are these 4 massive continents that you choose which one you want to fight on because they're all fighting at the same time.
So you
And then
fight
it
in continents?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
You
great.
fight in continents. That's great.
That's great.
But you kind of zoom down in on the map, and it's broken up into these different hexes, which are all connected through these different links. And so you choose, like the front lines, basically, of wherever your empire is expanding out into, and then fight in smaller skirmishes
And this
all
is-
over the map.
And this is a persistent game. Like the battle's always
It always
raging.
goes. And this was the one thing that was kind of weird to me. There is no ending, and no one ever wins. Like
real war.
exactly. Except that actual wars end, so nothing like that. But this
No, I don't know. Check the history books.
like the best that you can do is if you completely overrun a continent, that continent will lock for a certain period of time, and you will get a temporary bonus while that's happening.
Can you go there and walk through like a peaceful valley? Does like the sun come out on that one continent then?
I can't remember if you can actually spawn on that one. While like after you die or whatever, but after a certain amount of time, I think there can only be 2 continents locked at a time, and then they unlock, and then you just keep on fighting over them.
Does it feel satisfying still without having like the victory screen at the end of a big skirmish?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to how much you just like that kind of tug of war gameplay. I'd say like people play Battlefield. It's basically like a conquest mode in Battlefield where you're taking over capture points, and people play that endlessly. And I guess you have the satisfaction. You still get the same satisfaction of like, well, we took over this base and completely kicked out the enemies, and they may come back 10 minutes later and take it over again, but you're still fighting one skirmish after the other and kind of making your way across the map.
how do they get in a position where like, let's say it's purple team or whatever, and purple team just owns everything and obliterates it? Like, is there ever a point where it's just like no one can make any hedgeway with them at all, and like
Yeah,
purple just dominates?
That's when they basically lock it down, and then they will reset, like the territory after that
Okay,
when it
all
comes
right.
back. But
Okay.
So when you were playing, you said you can like buy cosmetic upgrades and stuff like that. Did you come across anyone who'd obviously spent a lot of money in the game? And if so, follow-up question, what did they look like?
I did not know, and I suspect this is one of the differences between the PC. I don't think as many people are playing on console as PC, and I don't think they are as hardcore about it, because Andy was really talking about, in order to be competitive on the PC, you have to upgrade all these things and buy these new weapons. And on console, like the starting weapons are good enough that you can continually use them, and I never really fought someone who I was like, oh man, that guy's, had better gear than me, and that's why I lost to him. It was pretty even.
I remember in our Fortnite video talking about the possible free-to-play microtransactions, and that Andy said that his comparison for that kind of purchases was Planetside 2, and how everybody has to buy a Halloween mask during Halloween so you can have a jack-o'-lantern on your head and dumb crap like that.
Yeah, Andy has to buy those things.
Correct.
But yeah, I felt no incentive whatsoever to kind of buy that stuff.
Because your characters, I just saw them on your screen. They look like they were wearing their pants backwards.
Yeah, they
didn't
they,
have to
Pay to rotate your pants?
That's right. It takes time.
all of the characters look outdated, and I can't imagine they were cool 2 years ago either. It's just the character models aren't great. The
Yeah.
visuals are mediocre at best.
But they're vehicles, though.
there are vehicles.
That's kind of the
trying to help
appeal,
you out
right?
here,
Is to have like
I mean-
Battlefield style, just crazy helicopters flying over, sci-fi machinery flying all
and
over
they,
the place.
they are huge ass battles, and they absolutely pulled that off. It feels differently than I've played plenty of military shooters and stuff, and it feels completely different from any other game.
Yeah.
In part because of that, there's a certain futility to, like, there are no winners, there is no best player on your team or whatever. You're gonna die in a couple minutes, but
Can you keep talking so Tim can ask his question?
yeah.
I was gonna say I want to bring up one thing that sounded like it'd be pretty annoying. Like it's hard. Your credits are hard earned for when you want to spend them on upgrades or weapons or whatever. But you said a feature from the PC version was weirdly
Yeah.
absent, which is being able to like hop into a firing range or something and try out the weapon before you spend your cash on it.
In the PC version, there's like this VR facility where you can go in and you can pick any weapon or any of the like attachments and scopes and stuff like that and try them out, which I cannot believe that they haven't brought over. I sent him an email, and Daybreak said that they're trying to improve it so that it works better when they finally do introduce it on console.
So
but
it's planned.
yeah, but it totally sucks without it, because they describe all the guns as side grades as opposed to upgrades. So like,
Did they invent the word side grade?
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
It's probably some kind of PC term that none of us are privy to. But it's true that the first guns that they start you with, you can play throughout the entire game with them. They are good enough. And anything that you purchase above and beyond that is, each one will have its pros and cons. So it really comes down to like your play style and your preference. And it's, at least for me, it's impossible to decide whether I'm going to like a gun based on like, oh, well, this one's muzzle velocity is 100 points faster.
And then you find out it's a
rate of
3-round
fire is 10 compared to 12 or whatever. And so like, you need to be able to try those guns out. And each gun, like the attachments and scopes and stuff are cheap enough that you can, you play for an hour or whatever and you can buy a new one. But the guns, you take a significant amount of time to earn.
You scored this game.
I did. Unlike Cork, the sellout.
I know.
I gave it a 7.75. It is. I go back and forth on it. It's when the battles are happening, when you get into a good fight, it is really fun. And then other times it does feel like a grind, and I wonder, why the hell I'm playing it. And it's also it. And I'm interested because Hanson, you said that you played it some last night, and it is They teach you absolutely nothing.
Correct.
Like they just throw you into it. They don't tell you even the control scheme, which,
What?
we've all played so many first-person shooters that you pretty much know most of the stuff, but you would never guess that, like, to throw a grenade, you have to press both shoulder buttons at the same time.
Right.
I had no
down.
clue. Yeah, so you got it, Tim?
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, I jumped in last night just to check it out and was dropped into a gigantic world and then ran around, did not know where to go, where the battles were at exactly.
And then quit to play Rocket League.
That's actually pretty accurate. No, so then it was like, I saw one objective and it's like, go customize your character. I'm like, okay, I guess it's maybe this blue icon. And then I ran across this giant world to get to this tower. Could not find, or no, I think I found where to customize my character and like looked at my character screen for a little while. So that seems fine. Got back out, ran back trying to find some action in the world, tried to get in a car. I couldn't get in it and then quit to play Rocket League.
Yeah.
Couldn't
and
get in a car?
And that, you because it probably belonged to someone else. So you kind of save your cars.
So I just pressed my face against the window and repeatedly tapped.
I think if you leave it alone long enough, then it's kind of abandoned, I think is how it works.
Oh, interesting.
Because vehicles, you can spawn them, but they kind of have their own currency that kind of fills up as you play. But you actually spawned in the tutorial content, or continent, which is supposed to teach you how to play the game, and it's actually way smaller than, the actual like full blown.
Really?
Continents. Yeah.
Okay.
But, and this is one thing that I talked to Daybreak before when we did an old preview on it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make it way easier, to get console players into it, and we'll explain things a lot better because we have this new tutorial content." And they really just drop you into it. And they don't tell, like, if
There-
you...
I mean, there's
there
an
are a couple
objective marker.
There are like a couple computers that you can go up to and it'll be like, this is where you pick your weapon. But they don't explain, the upgrading or, like how the different currencies work and all that
A
stuff.
part of me kind of appreciates it, unless you're really confused and bothered by it. But I mean, I kind of like the less hand-holdy experience where...
I go back and forth on it. I appreciate that, a game like Minecraft dropped people in initially and they had to figure out like, oh, you could have put it in the shape of an X and then there it comes. I appreciate that in some games, but other games where it's like, I checked out Elite Dangerous before our interview with David Braben, and that game is just, they left it up, they don't drop you in with anything really. It's like, go watch these YouTube videos and then you'll really know how to play the game. And it's just, man, that's not doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, like I don't have to be taught how to, duck or jump in a first person game like that. But when it comes to like, well, how do the capture mechanics work? I'm like standing at this control point, but it's not going down. Like, how does the basic flow of battle work? Like that kind of stuff, you need to tell them. And the answer is, go to YouTube and watch some tutorials that people have done. But I think the developer has.
In contrast, when Tembo walks by some stuff in the first level, there's like a big sign in the background, and it says like X to jump, and then you do that.
Oh, nice. Did you get over it then? Mm-hmm. Oh,
there's one section where you have to hold X to do his little flutter thing.
Oh my gosh.
Was that the problem with the end bosses? You weren't looking at those signs in the background?
I may have stopped looking at those signs.
You gotta keep looking at those signs, boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
So that's another way to do it. Maybe they could take a page from
Elephant
Game Freak's
signs.
playbook. Is it better than Destiny? Just answer what we've all been thinking.
You know, it actually reminded me of that a lot too, because when I got to that point where it's like, man, all that's left is the grind to get like new weapons. I'm like, well, for some people that's all that they need.
I'm sensing a common theme with the Andy McNamara tie-in here.
Yeah.
You give somebody a grind to get more weapons, and Andy will just sit down in front of that monitor for hours.
And I think I do enjoy Planetside on some levels more than Destiny, just because it's like, they are huge battles. Like you don't get that, Destiny is supposed to be about these big, giant intergalactic wars and whatever. And you're only ever fighting, 8 other humans or whatever. And this is like tanks and jeeps and aircrafts and, these big mech units, and everyone's fighting over the same spots. And
so pretty high highs and pretty mediocre lows. Is that what we're getting at here?
yeah,
Okay. That sounds good.
that sounds like a good summary.
I mean, a 7.75, that's pretty close to an 8. And an 8's not bad.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So let's think of it that way.
And it is also free to play, so everyone, if you're even vaguely interested, you should check it out and
You
give
should-
it more time
You should
before you go
DM
to
Jeff
Rocket League.
and then jump back in.
Yeah, I'll explain all of the mechanics.
Perfect. So I was really delighted this week when I learned that, I don't know how I was out of the loop on this, but they released a couple of prologue missions to StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void, which is the third StarCraft 2 game. I don't know if you guys are... Did any of you play StarCraft 2?
No.
Okay. Jeff, I'm counting on you. And perfect. All right.
I played a little bit of what's
Legacy of the Void?
No, I played a little bit for a preview
Warcraft?
Heart of the Swarm?
from GDC. It was the what was the name of it? It's the mode where you can kind of like help
Archon mode, I think.
Archon mode. That's what I did.
Where it's like kind of like a co-op thing where you're sharing a base.
Yes.
And that's for Legacy of the Void. But the interesting thing that they're doing here is if you pre-order Legacy of the Void, you get these 3 prologue missions, which are called Whispers of Oblivion. And since Legacy of the Void is the Protoss part of the storyline, you play as Zeratul, who we talked about before because he was the Heroes of the Storm character that I chose. So it's kind of fun to have missions focused on him. And it's also really satisfying to be playing the Protoss again, which you haven't done since this one little snippet in Wings of Liberty. And since I played them in multiplayer, I've really been looking forward to getting my hands back on them. But you play as Zeratul just going on this little quest to get more information about the prophecy that's going to save the universe, because the big bad is named Amon, the Zelnaga. So basically it's like we're trying to find some way to take out this big bad. So it's 3 little missions. They're okay. There's no like big cutscene intro or anything like that.
Okay.
Like 2 of them are kind of base building ones, but they have a fun twist where in the first one, it takes place during the timeline of Heart of the Swarm, which is the last expansion. And so Kerrigan's there, the Zerg lady, and she's trying to attack this Terran base way up north. And then you are Protoss, and basically you're trying to go east to west to free these captured Protoss units.
Okay.
While Kerrigan is going south to north.
Interesting.
So it's this weird timing thing where like, oh, Kerrigan's sending a huge wave, like hide in the shadows. Okay, now go. So it's almost like a Back to the Future 2 type thing where
Sure.
you're revisiting those events, but trying not to.
I mean, do you get
Nothing
game
like Back to the Future?
No, but like revisiting that same thing, but not trying to step on your own
interlope?
toes. Yeah.
So is it like you end up getting in a little fight and you have to kill everybody if you get caught?
I think they'll just immediately wipe out your army and they'll have to rebuild because they're like huge Zerg waves that she's sending in.
Okay, so it's like a stealth RTS mission?
And it's more just avoid this spot at certain times, less stealth.
That
But it
sounds
kind of
like
It's like a
Stealth.
train crossing, like a.
it's exactly do you consider crossing train tracks stealth?
Yeah, I don't want that train to see me because it's going to follow me home.
But then it keeps a tradition alive with StarCraft 2 does really well of just constant mission variety. So like the second one, there's no Vespene gas, which is one of the currencies, and so just like these volcanic eruptions, where occasionally some will sprout out, and it's like timed, and you got to scramble and try and pick up those scraps before the enemy does.
Interesting.
It has it's a weird analogy, but I think StarCraft 2's mission variety, it feels almost Nintendo-esque or like Mario Galaxy-esque, which every level is like, oh, here's a really fun twist on the basic mechanics.
The novelty value is high.
Right, which
Yeah.
it makes me more mad that you won't play StarCraft 2 because you haven't played StarCraft 1.
I don't know. Do you want to get into this?
I super do.
Have you
I
all played
really think-
StarCraft 2?
No, but I think because you're such a Warcraft
yes.
3 fan.
Yeah, I really like Warcraft and its story and the gameplay since the Warcraft 1. I loved Orcs and Humans. Played the hell out of 2. I didn't quite beat Tides of Darkness, but I got pretty far. And like that's what fed into World of Warcraft. But man, I want to go back to StarCraft 1 because I really want to appreciate the changes from game to game. I've let go of a lot of that stuff. I've let go a lot of like being a slave to chronology and making sure that I experience one thing. But StarCraft is just different. I really, really respect Blizzard, and I like that company a lot. And so I just really want to have that knowledge of StarCraft 1, and the music's awesome.
You're gonna read all those books?
I mean, if I like the story, I read a ton of Warcraft books.
Really?
You also have to play
Yeah.
the Risk StarCraft skin to really get the full experience.
I've been playing that by
before you
myself.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm interested in it. Maybe there'll be time, It's the problem is that this is the part of the summer where I'd be catching up on games, like retro games I haven't played or other games I put off from last year. But everything that's coming out is open world games that take like 70 hours, just pointing to Witcher specifically.
I think we're
And
still
then
gonna
as
be
soon as I'm
Skyrim,
caught up
yeah.
with that, Metal Gear Solid will be out.
I think you missed your StarCraft 2 window.
Oh, for my entire life?
No, but for like getting caught up in times for Legacy of the Void.
I'm
came out this
I'm
year.
not super interested in absolutely getting caught up in time for anything.
No,
but,
that's a bummer.
It'd be cool, but yeah, I mean, man, like these games, just especially of this year and stuff, they've just such a time investment. Bloodborne, all that. Yeah,
But if it persuades you, the cool thing about these Whispers of Oblivion missions is that it's a pre-order bonus right now, but eventually they're going to release that as a free sample so that everybody can play this, even if you don't own StarCraft 2 at all. So it's an interesting strategy just because Blizzard is getting more and more into free-to-play stuff.
like a real time strategy.
Exactly. But getting more into free-to-play stuff. And so trying to maintain enthusiasm for the StarCraft 2 storyline, which has been going on forever now, 5 years, trying to kind of remind people of what's happening in the storyline with these prologue missions to maybe entice them to then buy into the full game.
Sure.
So it's an interesting, strange strategy from them, but
yeah, no,
I think it's worth playing.
Blizzard makes really good games, and they make
Turns out.
really good real time strategy games. I wish that the rest of us could probably be conveying the correct amount of enthusiasm for it, but I'm sure they're going to make an awesome game. I'm sure
guarantee
you're going to be
it'll be good.
raving about it.
I look forward to raving about it on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, real quick, RTS note, people aren't talking about this, probably because it's from a game from 2004, but the team that ported Age of Mythology to, like, they made the enhanced edition that's on Steam, they have been teasing an expansion that they're making to Age of Mythology. They've been making Age of Empires 2 expansions, which is just crazy to keep updating that old game with like new storylines and new races, or I guess, kingdoms in Age of Empires 2. But what they're teasing for Age of Mythology is that they're going to be adding the Chinese as a new
cool.
race. So you'll have 3 different Chinese guys to choose from, which will shake up the game in a fun way for
That's awesome.
dumb RTS fans. But we don't need to keep talking about that. The other big release this week, Journey on PS4.
What is there to say about Journey on PlayStation 4?
I was in a test chamber with Kyle and Brian Shea on Journey.
And
as
did
it
Brian
turns
Shea
out-
mention that he has not played the game?
Yeah, that was about all we talked about. So there's
Yeah.
really not much to say about Journey.
I think the real noteworthy thing, I don't think any of us would deny that Journey was a really cool experience, absolutely worth checking out, especially on PlayStation 4 if you never got around to it. It's cross-buy.
That's the interesting thing, especially like a week after God of War 3 came out, which isn't
Right.
to have Journey. Really, if you've played the PS3 version and you have it tied to your account, you can just go into the store and download Journey on PS4.
I think it's a little different.
Yeah, it's totally different. I
Yeah,
would
but
say.
I mean,
Completely different.
I think it's really cool
could not
because
be
Just
more
as far as
different.
scale of game, is that what you're getting at for completely different, or the
Yeah,
downloadable angle?
I mean,
anyway,
they did
let's not compare. I think
remaster
we're getting
God of
apples to
War.
oranges a little bit here. But with Journey, I think it's cool because some people just like to hop into that game, from time to time, and just like it's such a good one sitting game. And just to have it on the most current console, just so you can hop in there or show it to someone who hasn't seen it or whatever. Super cool. I'm actually considering going back to it.
Yeah, I played it all last night. Actually, I jumped in to kind of test it out, and I was like, man, I'm really flying through this game faster than I thought I would, having played it a couple times now. And I ended up beating it like in just a little bit over an hour.
That sounds great.
Still,
Speedrun.
yeah,
Speedrunning
speedrun Journey.
Did your partner make it through the entire time?
No, I had multiple partners, believe it or not.
gosh.
It's always that thing with that game where you think you have maybe 2 to 3 people you encounter throughout the game, and then at the end it lists, who you actually ran into, and it's like, oh, apparently there were 10 people
Right,
there. I
yeah.
had no idea how often they were fading in and fading out.
If they managed to, I mean, it seems intentional, but it would almost be kind of cool if they aesthetically changed quite a bit from person to person, so you knew it was someone new. But
Instead of just length of the scarf and if they have the white robe or not.
Right.
But it is interesting to me just replaying that game, how much it can change the mood depending on like if you have a partner at a certain section. Like the first time I played through it, there's the great moment where you kind of get to go fast for the first time, and the camera turns to the side, and the sun's coming through, and you're going through the sand down that whole area. And I just did that by myself the first time, and then with the PS4 version last night, playing it, like I had somebody else with me, and we got like a cool kind of figure skater back and forth motion where we're kind of making these elaborate figure eights. And it's like just having that synchronization was so satisfying.
Yeah.
And then at the end, which I guess I won't spoil, but I tried to kind of role play it where we were trucking away, right? And then I was like, I wonder how much this partner really cares about me. So I gave a little double chirp.
Yep.
And then just pretended to die, just like sat there to see if they'd like stop and look at me. They just kept walking.
Nice.
They really just left me to die.
My journey story is that like I was making it through the entire game without getting hit once. I was just like a perfect run. And I'm like, this is great. And we got to the end where you have to near the end where these like dragon things are flying around. You have to go in these little hidey holes when they're around. And the guy just like blew it. Like he didn't get quite into the hole, and then it just comes by and crushes your little hidey hole. And I was so bummed out because just God, like this is this guy's fault. And then at that point, like we had been kind of staying neck and neck and like, being next to each other, and it's this, you're going up like trudging up this super snowy cold mountain or whatever. I assume it's cold. And I just you're just kind of like just shoulders are bunched or whatever. It looks like they're having a hard time on this mountain,
Right.
And
they have to eat the other little journey creatures.
yes, of course, that's what I was getting to. But it's just like the distance and like the cold climate and stuff. Like you mentioned how like the context kind of changes how you feel about it. Like that was such an interesting thing. Just trying to give someone the cold shoulder on a mountain as you're just like almost to the
So
end.
you resented him at that point.
I did resent him a little bit, but we made it.
Jeff, why don't you tell everybody your brilliant idea for a video revolving around
I said we should play through to show off the PS4 version, and then but edit it so that every time a character farts, that is it.
I think
every time a character jumps, it makes a farting noise.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And those are the kind of video
And
pitches
just
we have to
not-
turn down on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's what's keeping us
I
from.
think this is a cursed idea.
Well, we should
The
invest.
number one.
Let's investifart that a little bit and see if that's going to be something.
But playing through this game again, it reminded me of an old interview on like the PlayStation blogcast
Naturally.
with Genova Chen, who's the creative director for Journey, where he was talking about the debate about allowing players to control the camera with the right stick. Because originally it was just going to be motion controls, like Flower. And it was pretty close to the release, and they were sticking with just motion controls. The entire vision for this game is you can only control the camera with motion controls, which they trained you to do in the beginning. But it's one of those small things that I'm so glad they did that. I'm so glad they caved into just threw away their
Artistic
visionary.
vision, yeah.
Exactly.
There's enough interesting stuff going on in Journey that you don't need to be distracted by novelty camera controls.
Yeah. But also playing it reminded me how quiet that team has been since Journey came out. I mean, 2 years ago now, over 2 years ago. So they've given a couple teases as to that game company's next project, and they said that they wanted to embrace a more full multiplayer, not just kind of the cryptic kind of co-op that Journey has, but more of a synchronized event. So I'm curious about that and when the hell they're finally going to talk about that.
What if it's just a 16-player deathmatch? Just the dumbest.
Ooh,
It's actually drawn to death.
that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
What else have you guys been playing?
This week, like I played a ton of Witcher over the weekend, and I got off Skellige Island and played around with the new update, which for some people, I guess the big 1.07 update has been hurting some things for people. For me, it's been pretty good. I've noticed like I switched my Geralt controls to alternate, and he controls much better. It's still a little clunky, it takes some getting used to, but like it's so much sharper. He doesn't pause for a second before moving along. That was really cool.
So just less momentum based? Is that the overall
Yeah,
idea?
he just starts moving. It's less
Hang
like
on,
that.
let me write this down.
Yeah, if you move the analog stick, he starts moving. It's less like that GTA sort of, these characters have a sense of inertia. Geralt just goes where you want him to mostly, which I really appreciate.
I wish the update included a net, so you didn't have that weird pause when you are running and you harvest
just
like herbs or whatever. You see a flower. I want this to be instantaneous.
I know.
I don't want any kind of hiccup.
There's so much all over the place. I want that in like Far Cry as well. I don't need that little animation.
No.
Another little, and that's little other things. Your crafting material. None of us can talk today. Your crafting materials don't weigh anything anymore.
That's
so
the best. I
it's-
saved like 34 pounds.
Oh yeah, I just booted up and just like that's
I
exactly
lost
what happened.
34 pounds. Which
Yeah,
is
that's
looking
fantastic.
Just as easy. This one weird download that doctors hate. So that was a really cool thing. When you're in detective mode, things of interest used to glow red, and now they go blue, so you don't confuse them with like if you're looking for like clues in the forest. Like enemies glow red, and so did these items of interest. Now they're blue, so you don't have to worry about that anymore.
What do you think of your stash?
My stash, I don't really do that anymore. I like the idea of like this weapon's better than the other one. I'll sell the old one and just simplifying it that way. And now that crafting materials don't cost anything, I don't feel the need to use my stash yet. I'm happy that they put it in there.
You haven't been getting the Witcher armor though.
I'm playing it on easy. So it hasn't.
Okay.
But if it looks cool and the quests are cool, you were telling me that I should go and
put
check it out.
You could put all your relics in there too, or your trophies rather.
Oh, that's a good point. I was thinking of just trying to find. I found the guy that buys stuff just east of Novigrad, I think, that buys all your trophies that you get from your Witcher contracts, and he buys them at like 250 a pop.
Sounds like a high price.
I'll buy it at a high price. It's a good callback. You got the accent of the merchant from Resident Evil 4 just spot on.
I've been working on it for quite a while.
That's great. But he only has like 500 like coin in his or crowns in his inventory, so you have to like wait a week for him to.
Just wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So much meditation.
Anyway, I got out of the weeds with the dandelion quests and off Skellige, and I feel like I've settled into a rhythm with that. Other than that, I've been watching things. People, you guys, all of you.
Oh my god!
I don't know about
No,
this.
I watched in preparation for our interview with Seth Killian. I watched 25 Years of Street Fighter, which was
I Am Street Fighter is the name of the documentary.
Is it I Am Street Fighter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But anyway, it's for the 25th anniversary.
Right.
And it's a really cool, even if you just have like a cursory interest in Street Fighter, or if you're a big fan, either way, like, is super interesting. Like from the origins of it, they touch on, Street Fighter 1 and the birth of a genre, and have people like, creators like Ono or influential people in the series past, like Seth Killian, and they get into the Evo side of it from like the sort of like embryonic arcade days up through Evo, and just kind of like how that's blown up in that way, and show some highlights from the past fights, which is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. It was originally like part of some crazy expensive special edition with Street Fighter 4. And it's actually the team that made the documentary. They're the old One Up Show team. So it's like Area 5. They also made co-op and stuff. But yeah, they eventually just released it for free on YouTube. The same team actually that made the making of for Last of Us.
Okay.
Which they also eventually put up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Both of those are definitely worth watching.
That's fantastic. The other thing is I just went and watched all the interviews in order for her story. Like I played her story, and I did as much as I could and had fun like digging around in the archives and pieced together something I thought, but I missed one little thread. That kind of gave better context. I never would have gotten to it because I was trying to go down that route, but I couldn't find the thread, you know what I mean, that would get her to talk about that. And I do recommend people that played enough of it to kind of get the ending and feel like they got a sense of it and weren't having fun just typing in words anymore, just to get a complete picture.
So if I got kind of the first option to finish that game after like 2 hours or so, do you think I'm missing a lot? Should I go back and really dig in deeper?
We'll have to talk more about it, but I don't want to spoil it for you.
Sure. I haven't played it yet, so
yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything. But I think that if you're done playing the game and you have any shred in your mind that like you didn't get all of it, like you can look in your archive and see how much you're missing. And if you feel like you're missing a lot, yeah, you should just watch those in order. It's like a little over an hour, maybe it's a couple hours.
Cork, you should definitely play the game, though.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's really great.
Yeah. And then beyond that, I finished up the Double Fine documentary. They finished it up. 2 Player Productions and Double Fine finished their huge chronicle of the development and the post-release of the Broken Age, the Double Fine adventure game. And man, it's really cool to see the ending of probably the best video game development documentary that's ever been made.
By far, yeah. It's the 20th episode. I know we're yelling at you, Cork, to eventually watch it, but it's an interesting episode. It's not like... I mean, the most celebratory episode is probably the first episode where they just got all that cash and they're all over the moon and everyone's so excited. And it's not that I don't want to say that it kind of loses steam because I think the documentary is fascinating throughout.
Yeah.
But this episode is a nice reminder of just kind of how anticlimactic the creation process can be for everybody, but especially game developers. It's like, yep, the game came out. Okay.
On to the next one.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there's a great line where Tim Schafer's like, yeah, I guess this is just the point where we pretend not to care, but read every review, and then we just kind of move on. But the interesting thing for me with that last episode was just seeing how rocked Double Fine and Tim Schafer personally felt by Gamergate.
Oh, yeah.
Like that whole arc kind of was in the middle of the documentary, towards the end of the documentary, I guess, and it just seemed like it completely changed Tim Schafer's view on like being open and transparent,
Right.
And just dealing with the internet in general. Just feels like a trauma survivor.
Well, he talks about just like, we decided to do this giant transparent documentary on the development of this game at a time where the internet was crazy busy or crazy just mean and pessimistic and stuff like that. And he just talks about like, it's basically like presenting someone with a set of tools to just bludgeon and hurt you and just kind of leaving it up to them and just then see if they use those tools, and they used every single one.
It's crazy to think that, you know, he had this big initiative at the studio for transparency, showing the development process between this documentary series and Amnesia Fortnite and Massive Chalice. And in the 20th episode of the documentary, he doesn't say it was a mistake, but he says like, you know what? I think for a while we want to stay off the radar.
Right.
Like we just want to make games here and kind of stay quiet and not be as transparent anymore.
They earned it. I mean, for what they did for helping me understand that side of, you know, game development. Because, you know, when you go and visit a studio for a story or sit down with a developer, like you're always just going to get, for the most part, the stuff they want you to see. And like, it's up to us to kind of dig a little bit deeper and get, you know, some more honest, less maybe PR polished answers and stuff. But the fact that they put all that out there and you saw the good and the bad, you know, more of it than you usually get to see. Obviously, they called the shots with the edits at the end of the day. You know, who knows what was on the cutting room floor. But for the most part, it seems more honest than anything I've ever seen as far as the documentary side. So, yeah.
And the two players said that like early on, Tim Schafer kind of watch over and kind of make some edits here and there, but by the end, I think it was pretty much like, you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Have at it. Let these cameras roll in the studio.
How does that guy keep that kind of attitude up? Like Tim Schafer. Like,
it's a little bit of like a Conan O'Brien situation where like he might be deeply a sad man, but he just gotta keep a joke going all the time.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, for sure. The thing that kind of bummed me out with the final episode is when they released Act 1, they were really great about sharing all the sales numbers. Like it sold this many copies in this amount of time. It made this much money. It cost us this much money. Even like post credits in the episodes, they would kind of show like the number breakdown. They didn't do it for this one.
They get into numbers, but
they talk about like, we expect it to basically break even.
Yeah.
The end. They talk about like Grim Fandango numbers and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted that final tally of like, this is how much we made off of all of Broken Age.
Sure. And they do talk a little bit about like, well, everyone that bought the game or was going to buy it pretty much signed up for it when we got that Kickstarter going. And it's just their vision for it ballooned out of control a little bit.
They mentioned Jeff Cork's review.
They did.
Uh-oh.
Not by name, but they said like, they're talking about early feedback. Like, Game Informer gave it a 9.2, as they said, because I think they're going for the Metacritic analysis instead of 9.25.
They round out that 0.05.
Yeah, they really round down on that.
Selling them
It's
so
a
short.
lot of blood into that 0.5.
Yeah.
0.5.
Anyway, everyone should watch it.
It's fantastic. But real quick, also played 5th episode of Game of Thrones, which is the penultimate episode from Telltale.
It's very polarizing.
It's that classic thing where Reiner gave it like a 6. Other sites are raving about it. We talk about Telltale every episode, I know, but it just seems like most episodes from Telltale are about the same level of some interesting dialogue bits, some interesting choices, maybe along the way, and it's going to be janky and rough. And just the reviews are all over the place trying to look at this same janky object. Jeff, you've experienced this.
Yeah. I think it's the thing that I come back to is I think the quality of stories are much more subjective than gameplay.
Interesting,
I
right.
think all reviews are obviously subjective in opinions, but I think when it comes to if you're playing a shooter or whatever, everyone kind of has the same feelings on what feels good. And I think with story, just like I don't know, some people have crap tastes.
Oh yeah, it's like a game that's trying to be funny too. Everyone's got their own interpretation about if something lands or not. So you can say like, oh, these guys are a bunch of tryhards, and it's not funny at all. And other people might be, I've never laughed so hard.
Right.
I want to know what you thought, Ben.
I thought it was fine. Like I said with Game of Thrones, I think the first episode was the strongest for me, and from there on out, it's kind of feels a little bit like treading water.
Okay.
It's a totally fine story within the Game of Thrones universe. It's still so jarring to have the characters from the show. It makes them all seem insane that they care so much about the smallest people. So it'll be like Cersei taking a lot of time out of her day to talk to this handmaiden about very specific things about her family, and like, oh, I remember you said this before. Are you lying to me now? It's like, Cersei should not give a crap. Like, Ramsay Bolton does not need to focus on these small people way off to the side when he's got so many other issues going on. It just makes them all seem crazy.
That's the thing, like I'm waiting for. This is the first time I'm actually waiting for all the episodes to come out before I play.
It's definitely
Usually
the way
I
to
do
go.
them like episode to episode. Does it feel like there's anything at stake here? That's what my big concern here is, that it's within a framework that exists already.
Yeah, they're not vying for the throne. I mean, it does a good job of making you feel like things are at stake because it's about a specific family that isn't in the show. And so it's like, if you care at all about that family, it feels like everything's at stake, basically. But I mean, it's not like, oh man, are they going to conquer Westeros or not? It's not like you already know the answer.
Okay.
This family could get wiped off the map or not. But it also seems like people determining whether an episode is great in a Telltale series or bad is just kind of, do crazy things happen? Does a character die? And maybe that's a part of the fluctuation as well, especially in Game of Thrones. Like, if a character dies in that episode, a big character, people will be like, oh, that was a great episode because I was moved emotionally. But if you're just pressing that one button to sway opinions that wildly, it's such a, God, Telltale's in such a weird spot.
It also seems like part of it is like, how behind the curtain have you seen with Telltale, like all the choices? Like at some point it feels like I got over that and I realized that, that character isn't going to remember that. Like that is a cheap trick to try and get you to think that your choices are having more impact on a story than they are. And it feels like there's kind of a point of no return with that some people still, haven't reached.
Yeah, I did a test chamber with. A lot of test chamber talk today. Did one with Reiner for the first episode of Game of Thrones, and it was seriously a situation where this character will remember that. No fewer than 15 seconds later, that character was like decapitated. So it's like, oh, cool. That was like the last thing they remembered.
As his head rolls along the ground, he's just kind of glaring at you. Yeah.
Ink.
At this point, my dream for Telltale would just be to
Mad Men game.
Well, of course, and Twilight Zone. But we talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone.
But just have them sit out. Just take 2 years, build a completely new engine, or
Open
just
world.
learn Unreal. Just leave that weird straitjacket that they're in of like that engine that just makes every character look and move as if they're from 2009.
I think
get rid of it.
What's going to happen, I hope that this happens, is Until Dawn comes out, and I'm excited for that game. It's a horror game that's much more like adventure choice driven than it is like an action game at all. And man, it just got me going where it's like, if you could get meaningful choices and cool stories and characters, but make it look different than Telltale. I'm not saying that their aesthetic is bad. I think it works for what they go for with some of their games, like Walking Dead or Wolf Among Us. But just get them out of that and get some real like visual horsepower behind it, and just see what they can do with it. I think that I want to, just after Until Dawn comes out, I just want to see if people are thinking about that in a different way. And how long is it before? Yeah, I want to see Telltale just kind of up that game.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. The Idle Thumbs podcast, which is another gaming podcast I'm a big fan of. It's like Jake Solomon, or I'm sorry, what is this?
Rodkin?
Jake Rodkin, and what is?
Chris Remo?
No, Jesus Christ.
Danielle Rondu?
No. What the hell? Anyways, but it's the creators of Walking Dead season 1.
Okay.
And on that podcast, actually, just they normally don't talk about Telltale stuff, but they had an aside a little while ago where they're talking about like, I would really like to completely redo season 1, but just give it like a Naughty Dog level of presentation. And it's just a weird thought where it's like, you can tell that bothered them, and just the idea of going back and just doubling down on just the presentation alone and putting all that effort into that basic kind of gameplay structure. It's a little bit like what you're talking about.
Right.
Until Dawn. So they have that motivation. They're not at Telltale anymore, but I just feel like they have to do something. There's dwindling enthusiasm for all of these games.
I think that The Walking Dead, again, like it fits with the comic book style, but man, if you can think about like all the brutal, surprising deaths and seeing like pain and or joy on a character's face, like if you had a better visual fidelity going on there, like I wonder what that would be like.
Absolutely. Sean Vanneman's the name, by the way.
Thank you.
Completely blanked on that. All right, that's about it for games this week.
I played Out of This World.
What is that?
The old, like, side-scrolling,
Oh, wow. Okay.
weird
Why?
adventure game. It was on sale on the PSN store for $1.50.
What'd you learn?
I played it as a kid, and I could never get more than, like, 10 minutes into it.
It's because you didn't
And-
have an internet walkthrough.
Kind of, yeah. I realized this time that it wasn't just because I was a kid. That game is just hard as balls and totally confusing.
Strict
how it works.
memorization, right? Pretty much.
Mostly, yeah.
Is that the one where you go into the alien prison pretty early on? Okay, I think
You
I
get
played
sent
that.
to the alien prison, and you have kind of that Goron sidekick who's helping you. And
Yeah, worth playing.
Yeah, it's cool.
Animation's still really good, right?
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, it's still like it hit all those notes of nostalgia and frustration that I had as a kid. But
So sweet.
being able to, like finish something off like that was like,
Yeah.
I played that 20 years ago and I totally sucked at it. And now I finally get end credits.
It
That
feels
was-
cool to put those to bed. I think it's also on like 3DS too. It might be a good portable
Yeah,
game.
it's on every system known to man.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to second segment and emails.
Yes, sounds good. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. So this is the part where we go over a bunch of emails that we got. You can send emails to podcast@gameinformer.com.
Don't have to be questions. They can be thoughts, concerns,
Theoretical situations that you could put us in.
scale of 1 to 10, how much you want to marry Jeffem.
10.
Male enhancement
on.
pill pitches.
10 out of 10.
Yeah.
We'll take it all. baby.
Jeffem and Hanson pills. But let's go right into it. Okay, so this one is from Jason from Florida. Hello, GI crew. My question is this. Is there any popular convention or mechanic, I add the mechanic part, in gaming you wish would go away? Because when I read this, I'm like, you talk about PAX and E3? Like, I don't know. They're all fine. If not, is there one that is gone that you wish would come back? For me, I can remember the last time I played a game when I got hurt, the screen got bloody, and it was hard to see, letting me know I was dying. Thanks. I always enjoy the replays. Can't wait for the next Super Replay. That's Jason.
Thanks, Jason. I hope you like Beyond Good and Evil, kid.
Yeah.
What started the whole blood splatter? Was it Call of Duty?
I think Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
There's got to be that weird example where there's one from like the PS2 generation that tried it as well,
Things that, a screen that might flash, possibly red when you're hurt, like, that's not unheard of. In GoldenEye, your health would flash on the screen when you were getting hit, but only when you were getting hit. You
I
remember
prefer
that?
the Perfect Dark getting blurry when people try and steal your weapons over and over again.
That stuff's garbage. Actually, one of the
so
things I put on
terrible.
there is this is not a convention. It's not in every game, but in the remake of GoldenEye, whenever you're reloading your gun, the background would go blurry, completely blurry.
Overuse of depth of field. Yeah.
Oh my God, that is the worst thing. So where you'd usually be like ignoring your reload animation while like going to line up your next shot, it'd just be unseeable. Like someone wiped Vaseline on everything.
I'm trying to remember in the Doom 4 gameplay from E3. I remember they really played with depth of field too when there's like those weird gun porn moments when they'd pick up a new gun and really look at it. I think they probably adjusted depth of field for that too. But I think that was more of just for the sake of the demo where
Could
he's
be.
like
Just to
licking
show
his
off a new
sniper and all
gun.
that crap.
Who
yeah.
knows? So, all right, how about the rest of you? Things you want to go away or things you want back?
I'd say regenerating health
You want it to go away?
to go away.
Huh.
I think it's totally overused, and I think it actually might have been the new Doom. It might have been the Doom demo where they brought it up, and it's like all it does is it makes you hide somewhere behind cover while you're waiting for your health to go back up.
I love the way that Wolfenstein handled it, where your health will regenerate to a point, like 25% or something like that. But the rest you gotta go get health packs.
I think I still wish developers were forced to come up with a better way to just handle health. Like, I don't know, do something different. Maybe figure out a way to incorporate, actual deaths again back into.
Oh, what if it's not
shooters and
your
stuff?
health, but it's actually just like the city's health? And then you have to protect it like in Superman Returns on 360. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a great idea.
That would be way better. And Kryptonite Fog. I want that to come back.
Okay.
Oh.
Jeff Cork?
Weapon durability.
Oh, that's a great one.
Go away.
Yeah, who needs you?
It never makes a game more fun,
No.
and it always ends up becoming just completely pointless after a certain time.
Right.
Because you're able to repair things and keep them repaired. It's just like a minor hindrance that serves no real purpose.
What is the purpose, do you think, in
I
their
think
minds?
the purpose is
To keep you going
keep you going back to town and some balance of economy. If they think like, oh, this weapon, people might be, raking. I don't know. I think it's a way to balance so that they could suck more gold out of people.
I think it is also they want to force people to try different weapons and stuff. But I think you can also do that just by making, the player come across cooler weapons too. Like instead of handicapping them give them a better incentive to
Yeah.
grow.
And I don't think it's always bad. Like, I think in RPGs, it's almost always bad. But like in a game like, well, what do we know? Dead Rising. I think it serves a purpose because that one you're definitely like, these are throwaway objects of desperation. But if it's something like The Witcher, for example, it is such a waste of time. It's like, oh, I have a little red sword. I guess I need to use one of dozens of armor or weapon repair kits that I have real quick.
And you know, the other thing in that same breath I think of is like over encumbrance and like having too many items. What that is, what they're doing is make it so that you don't pick up everything is what they're saying. Well, don't make it so I can pick up everything that isn't nailed down, or like don't let me grab like 19 candelabras or whatever. I don't need those things. If it's not worth it, don't let me grab it. And if it is kind of worthless, like make it go to a junk pile that doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah.
More clever reasons to get people back to town, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I originally wrote down the constant refrain of like more split screen, but I'm really happy that DICE is finally embracing it for Battlefront. That's crazy for DICE to go out on a limb and have a split screen.
Until people started giving them crap for it, which is like a weird strain on the internet where people are like, oh, they're wasting all this time doing split screen instead of giving us more planets. No, that's one of the things. It's like,
that makes so much sense.
I can't deal with the internet. What the hell?
yeah.
Okay, that seems insane. It seems insane, but I'll go with maybe mingle player, as some people call it, where it's not quite a multiplayer environment. You can just kind of see
Journey?
glimpses. I would consider Journey a different beast, but I'm going more with like Splatoon, where it's like, oh, you can see somebody standing here that has a username that you can't interact with in any meaningful way. It's like either make your game multiplayer and let me fully embrace that, or don't show me these other players that I can't do anything with.
I think, yeah, that's a good one. The one that came to mind for me, this isn't so much like, I don't know if this counts, but anytime where there's a mix of like, it seems like we've had 20 minutes of voiced dialogue and then we suddenly switch to just text and then go back to voice dialogue, and it seems like there's no consistency in that. Like, I just want you to go one way or the other for the most part. Yeah.
Is there a certain game that jumps out?
Xenoblade Chronicles, I think,
sure.
did that. There's plenty of other games, but I think it might be a Japanese game design
Definitely
thing.
seems like an RPG thing. Yeah.
So, well, that was a good one from Jason. So, thank you. Let's see here. Let's go. This next question is kind of a big one. So, I'm going to read the beginning and then kind of summarize it. So this one is from Justin from San Macros, Texas. I still haven't played Arkham Knight, but I've read every review and impression I could get my hands on.
Read every review, he says?
That he could get his hands on. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a Hungry Hippos and you only get so much.
Is he grabbing a monitor?
Yeah, I
They
think
use their
so.
mouths too,
I
by
think
the
he thinks that monitors are just a one-off thing, and you have to just once you used one. That reminds me, my dad got a USB drive once to migrate all his files from one computer to the other, and he's like, "Yeah, I used that, and then I filled it up, and I had to go buy another one." And I'm like, "No, Dad, you can erase all
Is your
those
dad
files."
an urban legend?
I don't know. I mean, God bless him for actually using the thumb drive, though.
Cool, that was a great question.
So thank you, Dad, for writing in. No, so basically what this boils down to is the Batmobile. Justin doesn't think the Batmobile is the biggest thing, like a biggest missed opportunity or poorest implementation of the kind of tools that Rocksteady had their exposure or at their at whatever that they could use.
What's happening?
He does
Basically, he's saying, bear with me for 1 second. I'm getting there.
help.
I'm wasting my time trying to.
Yeah, just stop. Just tell us what the letter is.
Does he want us to talk about the Batmobile?
No. The gist is basically.
What he said.
Basically, wouldn't it be cool if you could play as Bruce Wayne more and have it so that things that Bruce Wayne were doing were informing what Batman would do? Just basically have a populated Arkham or
That's
Gotham
awesome.
again.
It's the same guy though.
Get back. Yeah, I know. That's the other thing I didn't want to spoil. But the thing is, like, they always find a handy excuse to empty Gotham, and Justin was sort of outlining some things of why that would be cool if it was populated. And one was like, well, Bruce Wayne could go to a bourgeoisie like dinner party and
You've eaten well,
hobnob.
Gotham. Do like the whole year one thing.
I don't know if it went that far because that's Batman.
It is
going to a dinner
Batman,
party.
you're right.
Bruce Wayne would go and maybe get some information, and then you'd go see that other character in a completely different context when Batman's like going and like interrogating him later, or use that information to get a lead somewhere else. Just get more of the Bruce Wayne side of it because it's been missing from those
And
games.
also-
Like the animated series, that episode where Bruce Wayne went on the chain gang. You remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Do tell.
Yeah, and I think it was a Scarecrow episode, if I'm not mistaken. It's been like decades since I've seen this episode, but Yeah, Bruce Wayne would do stuff too.
Yeah.
He did at the beginning of Arkham City, wasn't he? Like, at the in the prison, right?
He was,
which was pretty cool.
It's cool that they took some
like a
time for
moment.
it.
Yeah.
But don't you think that there could have been a little bit more that
Yeah.
it could benefit from some more of that? It's a great Batman fantasy.
For sure, they should have had a populated city. I would have loved that. But also, I don't think has any superhero game kind of dealt into like the idea that it's supposed to be a secret identity and like you don't want them to figure out
So
who
you have to like
are.
get in a phone booth to hide in just the right time. There's your stealth mission.
And especially with Batman, it's always kind of been like, is he a good guy or a bad guy? Is the city behind him, or do they think he's this terrible vigilante? Like,
it sounds great. I just don't think it's realistic for an action game, like an open world action game like this, especially starring Batman, where it's like if you populate the city, there's no way around it just becoming really awkward as far as who you can beat up, who you can't. Constantly
People
avoid.
rolling off the sidewalk.
Exhibit A, the Infamous series.
Sure.
I think it can be done, especially a developer that's as talented as Rocksteady.
But yeah, Infamous, you can blast people on the sidewalk if you want. You theoretically shouldn't be able to do that as Batman unless you let every player just create their own Batman where he is super into murdering grandmas.
Well, he wouldn't have to murder anybody, but if there was more collateral damage with this crazy vigilante,
There'd be maybe a meter at the top. He'd be like Batman or Badman, and it would slowly
be more.
Yeah.
the T just kind of phases into a D depending on.
I'd be fine with like if sections of the game were during the day and you played as Bruce Wayne and maybe it relied more on like the greatest detective motif for like those sections, but I like the idea of having Batman, just everybody you beat up in the city deserves it.
And do you also like it being a completely deserted city, though?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Besides,
If you
like,
get those
bad guys?
daytime sections in there, like I don't want to play as Batman in a busy city street with him walking down.
Yeah, what a hassle.
I would
to be honest.
It's true.
I would try out your Ben Hanson's Batman game, but I'm not sure. I don't know. It was a good question though, or a good pitch here.
Once we got to it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm trying to paraphrase some of these, and it's tough. Okay, so this one is from Nick. Hello, Game Informer crew, longtime fan here and member of the Overblood Facebook group. Basically, we have a fan group on Facebook that's seen our super replay of Overblood, which is a very bad game. You should check it out. Great people in there. I've got a rather dire question that I hope y'all don't mind answering. My friends and I are split pretty equally on the matter. Would you rather remove your hands and replace them with additional feet, meaning you would have 4 feet, or remove your feet and replace them with additional hands, meaning you have 4 hands?
Is there?
I figure I would
question
try to shake up the tone of the questions you were getting for the podcast, Nick.
4 hands.
Obviously, 4 hands.
Well, here's what I think about the future of Telltale. Clearly go 4 hands. There's no option. What are you gonna do? Run around like a
You're
horse?
gonna be like a
with 4 feet?
monkey.
Yeah, you could be maybe like super fast if you have 4 feet. Nothing can catch you. Not like the most trained law enforcement agents just cannot catch you because they cannot comprehend how
They're
to.
in like the police fighter jet, and you're just running on all 4 of your feet down the road.
and then you just like jump and bank off of the jet and get even more speed.
Would they be like structurally as strong as your wrists though? Because you're just walking around would be super painful, and wearing shoes or the equivalent thereof, your hands. I guess you call them gloves.
Well, you'd make
so your hands would get sweaty all the time.
Yeah, you'd save your wrist by I think making like fists with
like a
your
monkey.
feet. Yeah, I guess so. And then so you kind of walk awkwardly like this.
Just like I got to go into movement mode.
But who's going to even walk when you can just swing between telephone poles and headlights across the city?
Tickle people with flying hands.
swing from a
Street
headlight.
lights. Yes. Street lights. I was thinking. So hands is the obvious choice. you think?
Yes.
Hands.
Thanks
We're
for
all
wasting
going
our time,
hands.
Nick.
Oh my gosh, I thought it was a good question.
Would you choose anything else?
I don't know. It's interesting to. Can you imagine like the tone shift in the room when someone goes to shake your hand and it's just a foot attached?
And then
to
you
your
gallop away in embarrassment.
You got like a little
kick him
a
in the
little
face.
toe ring on one of them. It's like I'm a taken man.
I like the idea of you getting romantic with the lady you're taken for as well, and like
Brushing the hair.
brushing the hair out of her eyes with a foot.
Just like, oh my gosh, is that a French tip?
What?
On the fingernails.
Oh, sure.
But I said French tip. I'm like, am I mistaking this with a French dip? Some sort of toenail sandwich. Anyway, yeah,
fun.
that's a good question.
Fun times.
Feet.
All right. So this is from Caleb from South Carolina. Dear Game Informer, what's the deal with modern games censoring blood? For example, in Call of Duty or Battlefield, you get a headshot but no blood to indicate the shot. In the early 3D GTAs, people's necks would geyser blood, like a Betty Crocker gusher fruit snack after
like
a
a
headshot.
Betty Crocker Gusher Geyser.
That's right. And he says delicious after that, which I was gonna. That's fine. In Metal Gear Solid 2, a really old game, if an enemy SWAT team blasts Snake with a shotgun, Snake's blood will splatter on the wall behind him. Skyrim darkens their blood for some strange reason. What are your thoughts on all this? So basically, I just want to clarify that censoring is probably not the word to use here because it seems like these are
minimizing blood,
artistic choices on the behalf of
Tim,
the
I know you're in the
developer.
camp of the more blood, the better. You want it like a first-person shooter. Like if you shoot somebody just once, you want it to be like this fire hydrant of blood shooting out the rest of the map.
Pushing their intestines back.
Trying to pick their gun up as they're holding
crying
their
out to mommy,
holding their own limbs.
It's the only thing that makes you happy these days.
Yeah, I admit, between loving horror movies and video games and stuff, I've developed
And
the taste
murder.
that I really like murder. No, I like gory video games, but it's contextual. I don't want every game to be exactly like that. I don't know, but do you guys think that there's been a shift where there's less gratuitous violence and blood specifically?
It seems that way. It definitely seems like blood has been minimized, but I always like it in the options. I hate blood and gore and all this stuff, but I always appreciate it in the options when they have like super gore mode. You can turn that on if you're a real sicko like Tim.
Well, what's interesting to me is take a look at a game like Witcher 3.
Oh, God.
And
yeah.
how it's not bloody at all. Like there's not blood sprays going anywhere, but then it'll go 20 minutes and you'll have lopped a man in half horizontally. And it's just like, whoa, I forgot that could even happen. And they'll just get weirdly violent out of nowhere.
Yep. Then little kids playing hopscotch and there's like a severed head from the last battle right next to him.
rolling on the
10
ground.
points
great.
to jump over the head.
Do you guys want like Call of Duty multiplayer maps just to be smeared with blood? Is that something you guys
like
would be
Soldier
into?
of Fortune.
You know what I like? The fact that Call of Duty doesn't have that. What I like is that it simplifies the experience. It's not as distracting to have like the special effects flare of blood flying out from somebody. I like that it kind of keeps that sort of pure in that way, but at the same time, I haven't played World at War, which I understand is maybe the more violent Call of Duty option. I don't know.
Also, I'll let you play it, Tim, and then I'll just have a bucket of pig's blood that'll slowly drip onto your head, and it'll kind of run down in front of your eyes if you're into that.
To indicate when I've taken damage.
Right. Or just I'll let you play Journey that way and just slowly dip that 5-gallon bucket over your dumb head.
Yeah, dip it over my head. I don't know. I am always a fan of a little bit more blood in games, especially if it's going to be a violent game. Like, let me understand like how this would affect human form, even if you dial it up a little bit. I just like, but it's a tone thing. And if it's a serious game, like I don't know, like L.A. Noire, if you shot someone and it was just like a Kill Bill style gusher, like it wouldn't maybe fit as well. But if you're going for the Gonzo action angle, like why not go for the Kill Bill?
Go
style?
full mouth world.
It is always disappointing when you're doing like, you've got a sniper rifle and you hit somebody and they just like double over and flash.
Just
a few
dust
times.
comes up.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Any other thoughts on that, Jeff? Blood in games.
You're sick.
Oh, speaking of
sick.
conventions we want to come back, I want paintball mode in every game.
Every single game.
Every game.
How about Splatoon? You think there's room for a paintball mode in there?
No, I just want blood mode in Splatoon.
Okay. I think that we could probably get. Let's see. Oh, you know what? This one's pretty good. I'm curious what you guys have to say about this. This is from Corey D from Big Lake, Minnesota. Hey guys, first of all, let me thank you for making my commute on the weekends bearable. I've been driving him. I've been a gamer since I can remember, having started on Atari and quickly moving on to Sega and then Nintendo. I still remember the days when CDs came in perspective with PlayStation and how I felt that it was a joke to have to buy memory cards was evil. Now I look back and wonder how and why I could have been so naive. So my question is this. Is there a moment in your life, in your gaming life, that you felt so hardcore about something, hardware, games, etc., that was impossible to change your perspective, only to find that the change happened and it was for the better? Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work, Corey.
I have one.
What is it, Jeff?
We'll skip right over Ben.
Yeah.
No need.
For the longest time, like I have a pretty decent sized game collection. I like physical copies of games. And moving into this generation, I was like, ugh, I don't want to download full games. I just want to buy the retail copy and whatever. And then I'm at the point now where it's like, I think it's the best thing, just being able to like realize, oh wow, that game comes out tomorrow. I'm at home. All the stores are closed. I'm just going to initiate a download now and I will have it. And then I get like whatever BS pre-order bonus nonsense they throw your way to, you know, because I think the convenience is fantastic.
You have a super impressive video game collection, and I'm assuming you don't have any immediate plans to pare that down and sell any of it?
No.
So with that in mind, like that's one of the big downfalls of going digital only is that you don't have that physical disc that you
No.
can sell to someone or trade off or whatever.
I do print my receipts when I get those email confirmations.
Do you?
Congratulations.
There you go. You could sell that on Craigslist.
You have a sweet folder on your shelf.
Yeah. It's
But-
pretty sweet.
So if with that in mind, then going digital, the only limit is, your hard drive or whatever. So-
Which is pathetic. It fills up every time I have to make these terrible choices.
But that's still a limit even if you're buying the discs too.
Yeah,
because they all
because
have to
they
download.
Yeah,
things.
no, that's a great point. I think I'm with you on that one too, to a certain extent. Except some games are better to have installed than others. Like Destiny is a good one. I think. Like
Yep.
I keep seeing it, remembering that I need to get back around to it, but then like having something like, gosh, I don't know. Like let's say you download like The Evil Within. That's a weird one because it's like you play that, I feel like I got it, and now it's a hassle if I ever want to like just jump back into it again. If I have to re-download it.
Remember, like Diablo 3 was a great one when I
That's
was really into that because
good
it's
one.
like I need to check my mail, see if
Yeah.
anyone sent me any items. Which actually reminds me, I should log in and see.
You
if people are
should.
still
We should
playing.
all play more Diablo.
That game is awesome.
That is true.
I'm trying to think of ones for me. I think I was a little bit more stubborn than I should have been as far as not wanting to play online with like voice chat and stuff. But
You're
then
still like that.
I'm coming around. Definitely, this seems weird and a little bit late to the party, but I think like Rocket League is the most like voice chat. Maybe like Destiny or Rocket League is the only times where I've had like extended periods where I'll be talking over. But it's like, just come over and let's just play in the same house, even on different TVs. Like, I just feel like it's so much of a better experience than kind of having that awkward, are we talking the whole time? Are we not? But turns out there's something to online voice chat.
Yeah. So Rocket League, let's do some role play.
Yeah.
We're on the same team.
Right.
You go. What are you saying to me? Okay, we're
say,
driving around.
hit-
Yeah, I'm
gas.
on the wall. Okay, go to. You got center? You got center?
Yep.
All right, I'm
Yep.
gonna bounce over there and here. Oh, I missed it. All right, hang on. I'm gonna whip around. No, he's got it.
I'm
It's
out of
going.
boost.
It's going towards the. Yeah,
Okay,
they got
just-
it.
I
No, they
just
got. They got
knocked
the
it
goal.
in.
They got
Goal!
it. That's exactly it. By the way, I'm really glad that you enjoyed.
Why
that
did you
game.
all fart at the end when you scored a goal?
You haven't played
Have you
Rocket
seen
League?
it? There's
No.
a big farty red puff
Oh,
of
man.
fart.
But Jeff
I
Cork,
gotta
you
play
reviewed Rocket League, and I'm really
Game
glad
was
that you
super rad.
that you
I
liked
loved
it because we never even talked about it.
No.
I heard that you're going to review it, and I was like, Cork, I hope you really, really like this game. I want to play with you at some point.
Yeah.
And then I was never able to.
Right.
And I came back into town. You're like, ta-da! I loved it. The
Yeah.
end.
Game's great.
I still haven't played it yet.
You should play
Neither
that
have
I would
game.
love to. Let's get a game
We
going.
should all play.
We're gonna play a lot tomorrow. You should join us.
Okay.
Done. Jeff, what are yours?
I guess, and I don't know. This doesn't quite completely fit, but I bought all Nintendo consoles until I didn't, and then I never looked back.
When was this?
64 was the last one
Oh,
that I bought.
Jesus!
What?
You have weird gaps in your gaming history, like PlayStation 1.
I used to just buy Nintendo,
Yeah, now you've bought like PlayStation and stuff, right? And,
Yeah.
and Xbox, yeah.
and specifically not Nintendo recently. And I don't feel like I'm missing
you are
much.
missing out. What if you just had one summer where you just brought home a GameCube and a Wii U, so you could play Wii games as well, and just played like the 5 best Nintendo games that you missed? You would have such a great time.
I mean, I guess I played Galaxy and
You got the best
the
one.
Wii Zelda game, the first one that came
Had
out.
quite an impression
Twilight Princess.
What
Yes,
holds you
that's
back
the
from
first
grabbing like a 3DS or something?
The 3D. I guess I guess I have played
That's
some
stupid
3D
as
games
hell.
for like review and stuff. But it ultimately comes down to not enough games that I care about. I played some of New Super Mario Brothers, sure.
That's crap.
like
But you played
Stupid as hell.
Yeah, you played
it's a wise
3D
man
World
said.
on Wii U. You'd have such a great time. I bet you would like Splatoon. You like different third-person shooters.
Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, there we go. We could change your life. we could make you have
Oh my
such a good
god!
time.
I'm like changing back now. Is
Yeah.
this the thing that I'm hung up
Yep.
on?
Yes,
That-
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Go
think
on.
it reversed.
Okay,
Absolutely.
fine.
Gotcha
I'll take a
Force,
3DS
Animal
home.
Okay, I
and I'll
pulled up
play some more games.
Here's my phone. I've pulled up. Just hit proceed to check out, and you'll have a 3DS right now.
I'm not touching your imaginary phone.
Okay, what about
Okay, just let me shut this down.
how about this fall? You don't play any new games, and we just make it the autumn of Jeffem's Nintendo.
Yeah, no, I'll forego Fallout 4 to play old 3DS games.
Fallout 4 will be there forever. Absolutely. Well, play DS games. Let's start at the beginning. Because I'm guessing you didn't have
Actually,
one
I
of those.
did have a DS.
Ah, there we go. All right.
Oh,
There's some good
there it
games
is.
in
We
it.
found it. For me, I was a huge purist about mouse and keyboard, all the way up through BioShock. I knew it was on 360. I made sure to go to my way and bought it on PC because I'm like, listen, if it's coming out for I would say to myself in the mirror, listen here. If it's coming out for console and dual analog stick was a thing, and I was I played a lot of Call of Duty, I played a lot of Halo, stuff like that. That was kind of more specific to console, as far as like my friends playing and stuff. But BioShock came out on PC, so I'm like, well, I want to be able to do fast turns with high sensitivity and really dial in headshots and stuff like that. And
hang on, Jeff Cork's laughing at that.
I don't know.
I just think BioShock is the game I think of when it comes down to like KD ratio.
But the thing is, it's like those Big Daddy fights and stuff like that. It's just I wanted to have every edge that I possibly could, and there is a degree of fidelity and like accuracy that you get from mouse that you don't get from even like some of the best people that are. It's just a superior control input, I think.
But that one made you turn around and you started playing with the Big Daddy buttons?
Yeah, the Big Daddy buttons. So I played all of it like that. Mouse and keyboard was a great time, and continued to play my console games with dual analog sticks like you do. And then I went on a review trip to go play Left 4 Dead 2 at Valve, and I think I've told this story before, but they only had the 360 controllers up, and I had played a ton of Left 4 Dead 1 on PC because I was, again, like, this is one of the fastest, most like frenetic first-person shooters that has come out. Tons of zombies. Like, I wanted to be able to like dial up the reticle so that it was just exactly head width, so that enemies, like zombies pouring in through a door, I could just go rat-tat-tat-tat-tat and just get them all done in a row. Eradicate, yes. Once they evolved, and then I had to adjust when I was at Valve, and I walked away from that being like, okay, I've played a couple days of this game. Like, I think I can adjust to using a controller so I can play most things on consoles, kind of simplify it that way. And I haven't really looked back too much. Now I plug in a controller when I play like something like Far Cry on my PC.
Amazing.
I'll go.
Sorry,
It'd be so nice.
I didn't mean for that to sound sarcastic, but I was thinking
It super was.
another one, inverted controls.
Ooh, yeah.
That was the other one.
Finally,
Yeah.
I don't know what took me so long.
I'm in the same
to finally
boat.
just
Give
now-
up inverted controls?
Yes,
Yeah.
and now when I meet people who still haven't done it, it's like, just take the 20 minutes and readjust your
You're
brain.
stubborn.
you
Like, it was
idiot.
from Time Splitters to Red Dead Redemption where I was inverted, and I've left it behind. It is such a nightmare when you're playing with somebody else in the same room and you pass the controller off, and they're like, oh, hang on, gotta go in the menu every time. You are taking precious seconds away from everybody's life by switching that
Tim
crap.
is still inverted.
No, I'm not.
No?
Actually, it was with you. We were playing like Black Ops or something at your house one day. We made a whole day of playing a bunch of multiplayer, and you're like, why are you inverted? What are you doing? And I'm like, all right, well, let's give this a shot. And I switched it there, and I just sort of like slogged through multiplayer with you, and I got over it all in that one day.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
then you never think about it again.
And now you forgot about it.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
And I
For
thought,
me,
I thought we were friends.
it was Bad Company for
me-
me and Brian Vore.
I
We
think it
played
was-
it together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were say for me it was Tuesday. Like
For me, you were Bad Company.
Julia, whatever his name is. I
you
think
go.
it was Raul Julia. Raj
Bison.
Al Jul.
Mario Bison.
I forgot the actor that plays M. Bison in Street Fighter. I can't remember how to pronounce his name.
That about wraps up
did it.
emails for this week.
So if you have any emails that you want to send to podcast@GameInformer.com. We also have to award the email of the week.
Is that the hands and feet guy?
Yeah, it's going to be going to Jason from Florida, who brought up the gaming conventions that should go away, should come back,
Sure.
stuff like that. I like that question. So thanks, Jason. We'll send you a little treat, a little something, a little.
I think it's actually going to be a vial of Tim's blood
No,
this
that's-
week. Is that correct?
No, that was a different email.
Oh, that
yeah,
was?
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
When you don't like, that doesn't even get read on air. You just send him a vial of your blood as punishment.
I don't understand what you just said. But yeah, you can send it to podcast@GameInformer.com. So thank you for that. And then stay tuned for our last segment here. We got Seth Killian on talking about Rising Thunder and Street Fighter and fighting games in general.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have as a guest for this section Mr. Seth Killian, who's the game director of a new project called Rising Thunder, which we're going to talk about. But you probably know Seth Killian just as overall fighting game guru. So welcome, Seth.
Wow, thank you for the
You realize
introduction.
your name has just become synonymous with fighting games. Like maybe even, Tim, would you say Seth Killian has more name recognition than like even Ono?
Man, like I think that those two names I would expect to hear in similar sentences a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, especially when you're
Yeah,
talking about Capcom,
You shouldn't say that because someone will hunt you down and kill you.
Is it
Okay.
is it Blanca? Is it Blanca that will hunt?
That's
yeah.
right. That's what that doll is actually. It's bodyguard.
So Seth Killian, you probably know from his days working with the community and also helping out with the design a bit for Street Fighter 4 and that entire explosion. Then you went on to work at Sony for a bit. And now you're heading up a new team that's working on your brand new fighting game, Rising Thunder.
Yes.
Congratulations, by the way, on the big announcement this week.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been a bumpy ride and but thrilling. Like it's fantastic to be out on your own, and we had a lot of questions to answer with this game, and to see the reaction has been really heartening. Gives me a lot of validation.
Do you want to talk about about the announcement of this game, like how it took place, what all happened there?
Yeah, it was a little bit complicated. We're not clever. It's a very small team, and we get a lot of things. We do things maybe not quite as smoothly as they could be done. But this past weekend, of course, was Evo Championships, and that's where me and my partner sort of came from. And it was a project that we worked on together for many years. And so the fact that we're working on a fighting game now, we felt like, and it's just not, that's where we come from. Those are our people. So we have to do something there. But at the same time, we have a lot of respect for the games that are there. So it's sort of like advertising, like, I don't know, like NHL at the finals for the, at the Super Bowl or something, where you're just like, hey, I'm here for the Super Bowl. I don't want to watch an ad for something else. But so we leaked out a little bit of a trailer there, but without really explaining it. And that was fun to watch because people were Googling it, and like there's literally no information on this game. So we had fun with that. I don't think it was probably the greatest marketing idea. But we had fun. And then of course we talked to you guys and helped spread the word right after Evo about what we've been up to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was, Jeff Cork was walking around getting ready to talk with you and check out the game, and it's like, oh, well, we have a little bit of a playable preview of the game that Seth Killian's working on with his team. And it wasn't so much it was, in my mind, it was sort of like of course. Of course. Yeah. It just felt so natural. And then that was followed up by the excitement of being able to play some with Cork. So
yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I know it's we were keeping it under wraps, but it's a little bit silly. All the secrets in the video game industry, and like, hey, I'll give you one guess what Seth Killian's working on. Is it a fighting game? Yes.
Yes, I guess so.
Not a huge shocker.
But it's interesting just being a lifetime fan of fighting games. I think a lot of people in the community and fans can also connect with this, where it's like they spend years and years playing a certain genre, and they always think in the back of their minds, like, if I made something in this genre, I would make it like this. And now you're actually going on that adventure. Like, you left Sony did you leave Sony specifically to make this game?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt like, we work with a lot of fantastic indie teams at Sony, and I got a little bit inspired just watching all the great work that they were doing, and sort of living out their dreams. And to me, I had already been lucky enough to sort of live out some of my dreams, especially as far as video games and fighting games go. I just really love the genre, and, the chance to be in on the ground floor of Street Fighter 4 and be a part of that project from very, very early days. And then to get to work on Marvel versus Capcom. And, these are the games I grew up on and spent thousands of hours playing and just really loved to death. I kind of thought that was, what I'd gotten into video games to do, and I was done. But then I started thinking about fighting games again after stepping away, and I realized I sort of still had something to say, and this was my chance to do it. And I would encourage people, as long as they can find a way to stay off the streets, like, do follow your dreams, not because they'll necessarily work out. Most times they don't always work out, but it's a really thrilling ride, and then you have that answer in your heart. So it was something I had to do.
So what was the vision of the fighting game of your dreams that you left Sony for? What was the kernel of that idea?
Yeah, so when thinking about like fighting games today, I feel like, you think about like the late 90s, there are some pretty questionable fighting games starting to be released. As the market sort of collapsed, and there was a lot of sort of crap out there. Shout outs to anybody that worked on Time Killers or whatever, but they weren't always like great games, or Bloodstorm, and, these kind of things were, a little gimmicky, to say the least. So I thought, but today we're lucky enough to have, I think NetherRealm is doing, some of their best work. Capcom's on a good path, and on and on. There's a lot of interesting American developers now working on fighting games from the Killer Instinct side as well, with the Skullgirls, all these things. And I think the quality bar is really good. But the thing that always killed me as partly somebody who works on fighting games and partly somebody who just spends time preaching almost about fighting games. People have started to make fun of me in religious terms now, and that's okay. I'll take it. I really believe in this genre. I really love fighting games. But as somebody who spent a lot of time doing that, the thing that always made me sad was I just know that most of the people I talk to about fighting games, they believe, I think, that I'm really having an amazing time with them and having this sort of special kind of mind-reading, deep, soul-staring kind of showdown with other people. But I know that they're not going to have that kind of experience. Mm-hmm. And when I got to thinking about it, I just wanted to see if there was a way I could solve that. Like if there was a way I could open the door of this magical world of fighting games to people that I knew weren't going to spend the 3-6 months, that it usually takes to get in there.
I feel like other people have tried that maybe to a more jokey degree, but I think of like Iron Galaxy and their dive kick game where it's literally just 2 buttons where it's like, let's just boil this thing down as far as it can possibly go. Did you look to them for an example of maybe what to do, what not to do, how that lesson went for them?
So I've known Adam, who is Adam Hart, who's the designer on Dive Kick, since he was like a little kid, and was one of the early people to encourage him to keep coming back to tournaments. I was like, hey, I think you're a smart, talented guy. You could do something here and make some contributions to the scene. So watching him sort of, first come up with Dive Kick and now be a great part of Killer Instinct has been just amazing. He's a smart guy. He's a smart ass as well, but a smart guy. I actually hadn't ever really thought about Dive Kick when I started out down this path, but I think philosophically that idea is very, very similar. Dive Kick keeps it sort of maximally simple. The game becomes sort of, And so I want to do something that's much more like a traditional sort of 2D fighting game, but just sort of does away with the complex input. So Dive Kick, I think, has something philosophically in common with the game, but in terms of complexity, I'm going for something a couple orders of magnitude higher still.
Yeah, it's interesting because Ben actually has a arcade cabinet set up at this place that we go to, this lake house or whatever we go to and hang out, and we got Street Fighter 2 on it, and it's one of those things. And I had played, I think, a little bit of Rising Thunder before we went and had that time, and like had a good time with Street Fighter 2, and like we're all just very, very sort of top level, like I don't know, we don't have
Googling the moves level, but I think.
I also think that I think that your joysticks might be like four-way gates instead of 8.
It's not
but anyway,
important.
but the thing is what I'm trying to get at is like when you want to do a Shoryuken or a Dragon Punch, and tactically that this would be the right time to do it, but then you have that layer of like, well, this motion is really awkward on this joystick. I'm not pulling it off. I'm not great at this, so that tactical layer is blocked off by the skill layer that almost seems artificial in some ways. And what I liked from what I checked out of Rising Thunder is that, well, that's a button press now, and I can execute that thing when I want, which was really kind of liberating.
How does that work, Seth, in terms of mapping the buttons?
Yeah, so we tried to keep it just sort of how much depth can we squeeze out of how little. And, at one point we had not enough, and so we added more. And then we got to a place where we felt like this is capturing the real fighting game experience. But basically, you've got 3 buttons for your normal attacks, and you've got 3 buttons for your special attacks. And the normal attacks, they're different whether you're standing, whether you're crouching. If you're right up close to somebody, you'll get a different attack when the same button. And of course, if you're jumping, whether you're jumping neutral or back or forward, you get different attacks. So that's familiar to traditional fighting game fans. And then the specials, you've got them mapped 1, 2, 3, as well as a super bar. And the specials can all be done with a tap, as you talked about. So nothing gets more complicated. So yeah, an uppercut, like you're talking about, is actually just the button press. And if you wanted to throw a fireball, if you just tap the button, you'll get a fireball. And if you hold towards and hit the button, you'll get a faster fireball. And if you hold back and hit the button, you'll get a slower fireball. And that's pretty much as complex as it gets. Some of the other moves, you can hold them down. You press the button and hold it. So like you might have seen Talos, the grappler, or something like that. He's got a grab that you can do on just one button. And if you hold that button down, he sort of flashes blue. And that means he's now gotten armor. So about 5 frames into the move, he armors up, meaning you can't just poke him out of his charge while he's trying to grab you. And then that charge also has sort of a magnetic effect. So the opponent is getting drawn into his grasp, and they have to guess whether to try and jump away or how they're going to counter. So again, you can get a lot of sort of interesting complexity and depth out of a single button press. So was really just trying to tear the game back down to its roots.
Yeah. Was that the kernel of that idea then? Just making all of the special moves just one button?
That was really it. Yeah, I was. So basically the bet with this entire game, and this was not a bet that I knew would work, but I've been thinking about fighting games, obviously, for a long time, both as a player and as an analyst and something else, theorist. But I thought what's keeping people from really playing these is just a basic, it's not the complexity of the game overall. Let's keep that. Let's do that. Let's have that go as deep and, wide as it possibly can. But what annoys people is just not being able to do the moves. Like that idea that you were talking about a minute ago, Tim, where you're like, I know exactly what I want to do in this situation. I know I'm in the right position to be able to do what I want to do. And yet I have mechanically failed to do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's time to uppercut, you're free and clear and able to uppercut, and you just don't. It just doesn't come out. And then you feel stinky and you're bitter because you could have won.
That's right.
And it's also, I've talked about this a couple of times, it's this weird negative feedback loop. Because if you didn't even know how to uppercut, you would actually have been better off in that situation where, if you can uppercut like some percentage of the time, you're actually putting yourself at greater risk
by
in
doing
the heat
nothing.
of battle.
Yeah.
Than just by blocking, which is crazy. That's like not the way you want to learn things.
So it seems like this is all balanced out by having those special moves on different timed cooldowns. I'm curious, since you know fighting games so well, are there other fighting games that have tried the cooldown strategy?
So depending on how you look at it, absolutely, but certainly not in this kind of approach. So if you think about something as familiar as like a Guile Sonic Boom,
Sure,
that move is essentially on a cooldown. You must charge back, down and back for approximately 1 second to be able to throw another Sonic Boom. You can't just hit the button and throw as many Sonic Booms by doing the motion. If you wiggle the stick left to right, you're not going to get 18 Sonic Booms.
Right.
Except on that one really fun version of Street Fighter, the hacked version of Street Fighter, you could do that. So that's in essence sort of a cooldown. Things like assists from the Marvel vs. Capcom series, where you bring in your partner to do a special attack or something like that. Those are gated by cooldowns. You don't see it explicitly on the screen, but if you just mash the button, maybe Psylocke will come out and do a move, and then she goes away, and you can keep mashing the button and it won't come out again. And, there are other mechanics. Guilty Gear has every mechanic under the sun, so there's a bunch of characters in there that work on cooldowns. And then, depending on how you look at it, even things like EX moves from a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter are also essentially on a cooldown, although that's not a timed cooldown. Typically, it's a meter-based cooldown, so you don't have access to those moves all the time. But I think the point about cooldowns is they are one of the scariest, most sort of unknown things about the game, and they were one of the things I had the biggest concerns about. It doesn't seem like it would work, and at the end of the day, even if you've created something that's balanced and kind of fair, if it's not fun and if it's not recreating that like fighting game experience, like even if you have some masterwork of theoretical genius, nobody cares, right? Like the game has to be fun and it has to do what you sort of expect a fighting game to do. But I was surprised that I feel like we found a balance that really does sort of work. And, maybe you guys can speak to this, but I thought ended up creating new kinds of really interesting strategic situations where, I've got an uppercut and it's on a cooldown. Now, if I land that uppercut, maybe I can extend that into a combo and take some time off the cooldown. But if it's blocked, you have to risk being punished in that situation. And then your defense is also weaker for like a second or two, where normally you wouldn't want to jump at a character with a good uppercut. But because I know your cooldown is going to be off for another 2 seconds, I get this interesting brief window where I can dash in or I can jump at you. But then on the defender side, I mean, it ends up being really interesting because now I know you're more prone to jump at me because I don't have an uppercut. So that lets me start thinking about and anticipating that. And maybe I just jump up in the air and meet you because I knew you were going to jump because it's a good time to jump at me with no uppercut.
Was there a moment where all of this kind of
too much?
No, you got it. Was there a moment where this all kind of clicked for you? I mean, how long have you guys been developing this game now?
Honestly, this has come together super fast because there was a lot of ideas sort of on paper that we tried out really quickly in prototype form and worked. So we've been working on this game for about 13 months.
Okay. Wow.
And the team, we're adding some more people now, to make sure the online is right and to start adding some polish. As you guys have seen, it's I think the game is a lot of fun, but we know it's not the prettiest baby yet.
I think it looks pretty good. I think my first reaction is seeing that footage actually was like, oh, I like the look of these characters.
I'm very happy to hear that. That's sweet of you. And we've got amazing team, but it really is. It's only 8 people. So we're adding more people, now to get some polish and some real focus on the online. But yeah, this is 8 people in about a year, and that's including all the prototyping. So we had a lot of these ideas and just wanted to try them out. And the cooldown seemed like something we needed to do to avoid, we didn't want the game to turn into some sort of mash fest where everybody's just uppercutting all the time. But it turned out with some light cooldowns, it ends up creating this whole new strategic layer. And we got really excited about it. And at the same time, it felt like a familiar fighting game. It's like, this is a fighting game, right? Like it feels that way, at least to me.
Can you talk about who the team is that's developing this? Did you contract out an entire studio? Did you build it from scratch? And then also just who's paying for this game? Where's this game coming from?
Sure. We've got team members from sort of all over the place. There are former people who worked at Sony Santa Monica and God of War kind of stuff. There's people from EA, Ubisoft, so a bunch of sort of industry veterans from across the pool, and they're mixed with some basically hardcore Silicon Valley kind of engineering dudes. So these are people from sort of top shelf companies over there, like your Googles and whatnot, who have done well, but then wanted to just make more interesting stuff. And really loved games. And I was like, well, I can afford to pay you way less than you're making at Google, but we can have some fun along the way. And so let's get together and make games. And of course, Tom and Tony Cannon are the founders of the studio that I wanted to bring the team to. So those are guys I've known for a long time, founders of the EVO Championship Series, and very both smart about fighting games. And then Tony's also sort of a networking genius who first introduced rollback code for online play, which is basically revolutionized online play for fighting games.
Huh. So then I'm still confused because I think when I first heard about this game, it was pitched as the official EVO fighting game. So
what?
Can you talk about, is it connected to EVO as an organization?
Wrong. That's like, that actually upsets me. But
okay.
Yeah. Every game that's at EVO is there because it's supported by the community. Like the community basically has brought it there by their efforts all year. Our game, I would hope someday can have enough, players and excited players to be at a competition like EVO. But yeah, you absolutely don't get to EVO just by, just because we made the game doesn't mean it's going to EVO.
Right. But so is EVO paying for the game? Like the EVO organization?
No.
Okay.
Wow, that's this. You've got an incredibly bad piece of information.
I apparently did.
No, it's not. It's not on you. No, EVO is not paying for the game. It's entirely separate. So the funding for the game comes from venture funding. So
okay.
These guys, being in Silicon Valley for a long time, have a lot of connections in that world. So there's been some investment from venture firms back into games, even at the individual game level. So we showed it to some people, and we've been lucky enough to find not just sort of general venture capitalists, but venture capitalists who are really smart about games and have made great investments in some other very successful companies.
Since you've been at EVO for the past few days, have you had a chance to sort of, without naming names, like show the game to some, of professional fighting game experts, and get some feedback? And like, if so, how did that go?
It's been really great, actually. So we've shown just a tiny number of people sort of what we're up to and our progress along the way, just to get a little bit of outside validation. Like, we feel like we're kind of off the reservation here, a little bit crazy. So anything, just to have somebody else look at it who's very serious about fighting games and doesn't care whether or not we make a good game, just to look at it and go like, does this stink?
Right.
Is this an abomination? Is this heresy against all fighting? People have been shocked because, I try and tell them sort of as little as possible sometimes, just because the more you hear, the more you just assume that it can't possibly work. But yeah, watching the pros get their hands on it, like they start having fun like right away, and they immediately they look confused for about 30 seconds, and then they look at me and smile.
All
and
right.
they get it, and then they start to figure out the dirty stuff and the really cheap ways to approach an attack.
And then your pencil lights your pad of paper on fire as you take down notes furiously
Right.
to bring back. Yeah.
It's like in a
Well, that
party,
is
he's like typing
literally-
in his pocket.
Yeah, no, that I actually do have, a very full list of notes from this weekend. But that same kind of inspiration is exactly why we wanted to go from announcement, which is basically, now to release in like a week. We wanted to do that because we assumed that everyone on the internet, I feel like the reaction has been really positive, actually, much more positive than I was anticipating. I come from a grumpy, angry, disbelieving bunch of fighting game players who assume everything is the worst at all times. And so I figured the only way I'm going to convince anybody that this game is any good is by just letting them play. Like, I could argue on the internet all day with people and no one's going to believe me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're just not going to believe this could work. So don't have to believe me. You can play it. And of course the game is free. So, if you want to take the time to argue with me on the internet, hopefully you take the time to download the game and play it for yourself. And, then you'll at least have something serious to talk about.
Yeah.
And is this kind of like a free trial period before you guys release the game? Is it basically early access is free, or is it eventually going to be released as free as well?
No, it's absolutely free. So, the word I want to say, but also don't want to say is free to play, of course. And the reason I don't want to say free to play is because there are so many terrible, terrible games that use the word free to play. But when we're talking about free to play, I mean, the only thing I can do is point out the people we like in the genre, which are people like Dota and League of Legends, this kind of monetization where they don't put anything between you and just playing as much as you want and playing that way for forever. And, Dota in particular, no charge for anything. So they really build this business around cosmetics. And if you have a really fun, sticky game on the competitive side, it's going to attract a community, and that community will support you in that way. And we believe that. And if that doesn't work out, it's because we didn't make a game that was fun enough. And, I'll, as we say in the fighting game community, I'll hold that L, which means when you take a loss, you have to sort of sit there and be like, yep, that guy beat me. I'll just have to. So no one's trying to beat me here, but it could be myself. But that is our business plan. So yeah, it's free now. So we literally don't have anything to sell you, and we won't because we haven't even started work on a store. So,
but it's going to be like the Subway fighting character versus like the Verizon fighting character. Is that how this is working?
Yes, it's all going to be fueled by tiny, tiny micro ads that'll subliminally flicker between the frames until you walk away deciding you want pudding after every match.
Execute the Hilo combo. So you must have looked at like Killer Instinct as a model though for the free-to-play fighting games, right?
Yeah, Killer Instinct is interesting because I think they were definitely sort of one of the first kids in the pool. But to me, Killer Instinct is a little bit more reserved in terms of the model that they're going for. They've got sort of a rotation of characters that are free. All of our characters will be free as we go forward here. So we want to get those characters. We want to just let people play during this early period, and so we want everything to be free and people to just dive right in. And I think something that also made it a little bit more complicated for them was, it's free to play, but it's on a specific piece of hardware that's just less common than a thing like a PC. So it sounds like it's coming to PC in the future. So I think we'll be closer in those regards. But yeah, we just want to go no sort of half steps right now. We want to go straight in. And when we say free to play, have that be the sort of expectation that PC players who like free-to-play games already have.
So it's only going to be on PC for this period.
It is right now, and obviously, having worked at Sony and having many friends at Xbox, we have good friends there who are aware of what we're doing, and we're very encouraging and sort of interested. And I've been not just also a console gamer, but primarily a console gamer for the last few years, and I would be happy to be on consoles, but right now, my priority is basically just to try and make the game as good as it can possibly be, and to update it as quickly, or to add, sort of new features and things like this, and to tweak the online, all these kinds of things. And for that, I want just complete freedom where I don't have to worry about update paths or any kind of restrictions on those fronts. So I think those guys have made a lot of progress in supporting this kind of free-to-play game. But everything we were doing that was a little bit different, anytime there was a raised eyebrow, I was just thinking like, we'll just do this on PC and go our own way. And, if we make something great, I'm sure we'll find a way to get it onto consoles eventually. Mm-hmm. And, but I just don't want any obstacles. I don't want to feel like I couldn't make the game the way we thought it should be just because there was, some sort of obstacle on that front.
Definitely. So you guys are embracing online connectivity. I've read some interviews with you where you're saying like day one, we're worried about the online infrastructure for this game.
Yeah.
And you're embracing it in such a way, to make clear, like there is local multiplayer as well, right? On PC?
Right now, no, not for the
interesting.
test period. Yeah. And that goes down to some of the things that we talked about as far as, the hidden information and like every player having their own screen. So that makes it possible to do things that sort of haven't been done before in a fighting game. And the sort of clearest example I can think of is, there are more examples in the game that I think people will be able to see for themselves, but without video and without people playing for themselves yet, things like invisibility, which has been done, as far back as Mortal Kombat 2, back in the arcades. But the thing that stunk about invisibility back then is you lose track of where you are on the screen. Or they do sort of an in-between invisibility where you become a little harder to see, but you can totally still see where the invisible guy is. So by having things like your own individual screen, we can do sort of truly invisible on the opponent's screen, whereas on my screen, I'm still totally visible to myself. And you start to get interesting gameplay stuff like this that emerges naturally. So rather than look at online as a restriction, we were excited about what we could do that really hasn't been done before with a traditional fighter.
And is it a matter of just balancing that out, like the unique capabilities of online only versus the local multiplayer crowd being a little bit pissy about this whole thing?
Yeah, for sure. And we may find a way to try and support that. But right now, again, the team is so tiny, like we have to choose sort of one thing to try and get right. And for us, that priority right now is nailing the online. And we've got a lot of other sort of features of the game that are already built around that, like the cooldowns. Like you don't necessarily see your opponent's cooldown. So more advanced players can sort of begin to learn who they're up against in terms of characters and get a feel for those kind of cooldowns. But there's a bunch of gameplay built around not necessarily being able to see your opponent's screen. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. So I'm sure we can find a way to support it locally. It's just you'll be playing just a kind of not quite the game that we had designed.
One thing I think is worth asking before we let you go, Seth, is there are probably some people, watching or listening to this podcast that have sort of like a cursory interest in fighting games and have been sort of some of those people you're talking about where they felt like it's kind of inaccessible and really intimidating barrier to entry. And Rising Thunder aside, this is probably a question you get a lot, but what do you think people should do to kind of try to break past that? You said like 3 to 6 months just to kind of like get your head around it. Should they watch and study Evo videos? Should they go into Street Fighter 4 and like try to master every single one of Ryu's combos? Should they fight the computer? Should they just get friends together and try to play, at their house? Like, what do you think is the best way to kind of like help people break in?
I mean, it depends a bit on exactly where your level is, but I think the most important things, ironically, for people at the very start of fighting games is really learning movement and blocking. Because if you're not blocking, that's really the fastest way to die against sort of a superior player, and they will completely exploit that. The sad part about that is blocking is kind of the least fun thing to do. Everyone just wants to do the moves and, look like a karate superstar or something like that. Of course, you didn't play the game to like practice blocking, but a lot like Daniel San having to polish the porch or whatever he was out there scrubbing in the Karate Kid. Like, yeah, by going through a lot of sort of that stuff, that's sort of, I think, the best onboarding path for traditional fighting games. Just getting a sense of like, what am I trying to do in this particular match? And that's something I think that translates across, not just a Rising Thunder to a Street Fighter to a Mortal Kombat, but really any fighting game is, what are we trying to do, and how is my opponent trying to approach and attack me? How can I shut that down? What are my, the options sort of start to develop once you have a basic idea of the game plan and some familiarity with your moves. And obviously you need to be able to do those moves and the blocking and the movement. And I think from there, you'll start to get ideas about ways you can deviate, maybe surprise your opponent. And maybe you can get those from, great match videos. But yeah, those are the key elements in my mind.
Okay, great.
And real quick, Seth, I have a weird question for you. What are some of the most underrated fighting games out there? People always talk about the Street Fighter 2s, there's the Mortal Kombat crowd, but are there some games out there that don't get their due?
Underrated. Well, I think in terms of raw player base and presence right now, Virtua Fighter would probably have to be at the top of my list. I think there's some really elegant, beautiful stuff in that game. But it just sort of, I don't know. I mean, it's still got a following in Japan for sure. And around the world, it's just not, it doesn't have quite the same presence. And I don't think when people are thinking about fighting games, they're always thinking about a game like Virtua Fighter. But I think it's a really elegant game in a lot of ways. So
just the first one, or even going into the future?
Oh, actually, not the first one.
Okay.
The first one was like a clever idea, but cool idea with 3D and all that, but not actually a good game. Virtua Fighter 2, I thought was incredible. That was the one that really blew the doors off for me. But basically, I think hardcore people can argue about which one is the greatest, but Virtua Fighters have been pretty consistently really good. But maybe, again, not always as accessible and in terms of figuring out what's happening on the screen.
And I feel like
I got to give those guys a shout out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like that series has just been so quiet, too, especially after the Street Fighter 4 boom, where it seems like there's this big resurgence and Evo really taking off where they haven't really gotten their due. Yeah.
Well, we'd love to have them back if they can find a way to rally. We're Virtua Fighter fans, too, and it's a great game, but things come and go, as you guys know.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, hey, Seth, I think it's a very smart move to look at kind of how the approachability level in the fighting game genre is moving towards the future and kind of making your play to go where the puck is going, I guess the expression would be.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whether we succeed or fail, I just really want people to learn more about fighting games and to be able to understand, this genre that completely changed my life and has introduced me to so many amazing people, including you guys, as well as all the players I play with around the world. And I really think there's something special happening in fighting games that you don't see in other genres, that you don't see, outside of games. And, if I can open that world up to a few new players, I'll consider it a job well done.
Nice. So next week, when players can start playing this game for free on PC, where do you want them to send feedback? Are there forums on your site or something, or what should they do?
Yeah, we're going to have some forums up over at risingthunder.com, which is also where they can go to sign up for the alpha. And we're going to be rolling people into that sort of, we're not going to open the floodgates and everybody who signed up is there at hour zero because we're testing our networking, but it'll be, maybe 500 or 1,000 people first day, and then maybe another couple thousand the next day, and we'll go on from there. But it's going to be exciting, and we really do need your feedback. Again, it's not sort of a BS, hey, community, like, we'd love to hear what you think.
Join the conversation.
All the emails go straight into that scene from Lost where you see all those pneumatic tubes piled up in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Yeah, it's not like that. We really are a tiny team. We absolutely need feedback. The feedback I've gotten just this weekend here at Evo already has been super important. So we're proud of what we've done, but we know we're going to need everybody's help to get it across the finish line.
Definitely. Well, cool. Yeah, listeners of the podcast can check it out, send some feedback Seth's way. And Seth, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Game Informer Show.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure, guys. So much. Thanks.
Cool. And thanks for watching or listening to the show. Be sure to send feedback to us at podcast@gameinformer.com. And until then, we'll see you next week. Bye.